Chapter 245. Wei Hai's eyes widened as he looked down at the sword in his chest. He hadn't expected Li Mo to break his oath. The people of the Qinyuan continent believed in the supernatural, and oaths were the most important thing to them. How could Li Mo break his oath? Break your oath. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Wei Hai looked at Li Mo. What Wei Hai didn't know was that being struck by lightning wasn't a big deal to Li Mo. Li Mo didn't even look at Wei Hai. His gaze was fixed on Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, was looking at Wei Hai. Before he could tell her what she wanted to know, he had died just like that. Su Bei pulled out his sword and fresh blood spurted out from the wound on Wei Hai's chest. Suddenly, Yun Ruoyan felt a warm sensation on her body. Li Mo had walked to her side and draped his robe over her shoulders. Wei Hai coughed up a mouthful of blood and his body slumped to the ground. As he took his last breath, he used the last of his strength to look at Yun Ruoyan. If you want to know, ask the old turtle. Who's the old tortoise? Where can I find him? Yun Ruoyan asked hurriedly, but Wei Hai had already breathed his last. Li Mo glanced at Su Bei, who nodded almost imperceptibly. That feathered beast really deserves to die. The far-sighted king Li Xing walked over and looked disdainfully at Wei Hai's lifeless body. Yun Ruoyan turned to look at Li Xing, her tone mocking. This feathered brute seemed to have been ordered by you to kidnap me, didn't he? His death isn't to be regretted, but neither are you. Although Wei Hai didn't strike Yun Ruoyan as a good person, he was at least an upright one. Li Xing, on the other hand, left an extremely poor impression on Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan's previous impression of the far-sighted king had all come from the mouths of others. Yun Ruoyan felt that a man who could lie low for more than a decade in order to obtain the power he desired had to be a remarkable character, even if he wasn't a hero. However, after seeing Li Xing's despicable behavior, Yun Ruoyan felt that he really didn't live up to his reputation. In front of the emperor of the Li kingdom, Li Xiu, he was a far cry. Although Li Xiu was all smiles, he was actually quite astute, as evidenced by his attitude toward Li Mo. Li Xing, on the other hand, had offended Li Mo as soon as he arrived. Apart from the Beastmen War many years ago, Li Mo had never participated in the politics of the Li kingdom. Apart from the Beastkin War many years ago, Li Xing had never participated in the affairs of the kingdom again. Yun Ruoyan felt that with Li Xing's inability to grasp the situation, even if he were to rebel, it would be difficult for him to accomplish anything significant. Miss Yun, this prince was only joking with you. I didn't really want to do anything to you. Yun, Li Yun replied. Li Xing straightened his back and assumed the posture of a prince. If it weren't for this prince, Miss Yun wouldn't have been able to be saved. Xing Yun, Li Yun said. Yun Ruoyan didn't think that Li Mo would let Li Xing off so easily, but to her surprise, Li Mo simply waved at Su Bei. King Li Su leave Li. Immediately, Xing to King Mo, Yun Li, Yun Xing Mo. Xing had to say. You're letting him off just like that? Yun Ruoyan turned to Li Mo. After all, Li Xing was the main culprit and she wasn't willing to let him off so easily. Furthermore, she had a request for Li Xing. She wanted to go to the far-sighted king's manor and look through her own records. There'll be plenty of opportunities to vent your anger in the future. Right now we have to hurry back to Kongming Mountain, Li Mo said. Did something happen at the academy? Yun Ruoyan asked when she saw Li Mo's serious expression. Nothing's happened at the academy, Li Mo replied. But the first elder sent me a message that the portal to the alternate dimension will open a year in advance. We'll need to select a new batch of students to enter the alternate dimension and train them. The portal would only open once every 3 years, but this time, it would open a year in advance. This meant that the students would only have a year to train. Compared to the past, time was of the essence. In that case, let's hurry back. Yun Ruoyan had heard from Li Mo that the first requirement to enter the alternate dimension was to become an 8th rank blade master. Only after reaching 8th rank could a blade master begin to cultivate their own flying swords and become a true blade master. Only by becoming a true blade master would one be able to enter the alternate dimension and fight for treasures. Otherwise, they'd be nothing more than cannon fodder. Even someone like Li Mo, who was a 9th rank blade master and infinitely close to becoming a sword saint, would be nothing more than an ordinary cultivator in the alternate dimension. As a result, this year's training would be extremely important to both Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. How are you feeling after being poisoned? Li Mo asked when he saw Yun Ruoyan's pale complexion. I'm fine. The poison's been cured. Let's head out now. A few hours later, just as the sky was turning dark, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo returned to Kongming Academy. Li Mo first sent Yun Ruoyan back to her cottage by the cliff before heading to the southern tower. The first elder was waiting for him there. Master, why did the portal suddenly open so early? Li Mo asked the first elder. The great elder's expression was also rather solemn. I don't have the authority to ask too much about the matters of the other world. It's just that I suddenly received a message from the Heaven's Eye Mirror, and the number of people entering the other world this time has increased by 10. You're saying that Kongming Academy will be sending 30 students into the alternate dimension? Li Mo's tone was slightly shocked. In the past, 20 students had entered the alternate dimension, but 30 this time. 30 students wasn't a large number for Kongming Academy's 3,000 students, but it wasn't easy for them to recruit 8th rank blade masters. The new batch of students was on average a 5th rank blade master. Even among the older students there weren't many 8th rank blade masters. 30 8th rank and above blade masters were almost all of Kongming Academy's elite students. Although Li Mo had never entered the alternate dimension before, having grown up in Kongming Academy, he was very familiar with the alternate dimension that only happened once every 3 years. Coupled with the first elder's tutelage, Li Mo was the only person in the entire Kongming Academy who understood the alternate dimension better than anyone else. Those who hadn't entered the alternate dimension believed that it was filled with treasures, spiritual herbs, and that it must be a land of immortals. As a result, they all desperately wanted to explore it. Li Mo had been no exception. It was only after the first elder explained the situation in detail to Li Mo that he gained a clearer understanding of the alternate dimension. While it was true that the alternate dimension was filled with treasures, it was also a land of tigers and wolves. There were many existences in the alternate dimension that the people of the Xianxia continent couldn't even begin to imagine, and all of them possessed monstrous cultivation. 8th rank blade masters were like ants in front of them. If they moved even the slightest bit, they'd be dead without even a trace of their bodies left to rot. As a result, very few of the students who entered the alternate dimension ever returned. But when they did, without exception, become one of the most powerful individuals on the Xianxia continent, and without exception, they all refused to allow their most valued children to enter Kongming Academy. Yun Ma Xiao, Wang Meng, and a number of other talented students had all been rejected by their parents. Wang Meng had only managed to enter the academy because of a special reason, and that had been without his father's knowledge. Tomorrow there will be a meeting of the elders to draw up a list of students to enter the alternate dimension. The first elder began. The first elder turned to Li Mo. Anyone who's a 6th rank blade master or higher has a chance of being chosen. That lass, Yun Ruoyan, is already a 6th rank blade master. What are your plans? She'll only be of age next year, and I naturally don't want her to enter such a cruel place as soon as she's of age. Li Mo sighed almost imperceptibly. I originally wanted to wait until she was a little older before going with her to the alternate dimension. But she's looking forward to this trip and I have to participate as well. I'll analyze the pros and cons with her, and if she's willing I'll bring her along. If not, I won't force her. The next morning, after a night's rest, Yun Ruoyan's energy had mostly recovered. Early in the morning, Yun Ruoyan made some preparations before heading to the bamboo garden to ask Lin Qingchen to accompany her to the Southern College for lessons. She wondered if missing 2 days of classes would affect her progress, and if she could get Li Mo to write her a leave of absence. At that moment, Li Mo suddenly floated in through the window. Yun Ruoyan was already used to Li Mo's habit. After a moment's hesitation, Yun Ruoyan asked, "Has there been a new development in the alternate dimension?" Li Mo walked over, somewhat speechless, and hugged Yun Ruoyan's petite body. "I've spent a lot of effort to get Yen'er to get close to me. Why do I feel like you've returned to your previous coldness toward me?" "Have I?" Yun Ruoyan murmured in Li Mo's embrace. Even Yun Ruoyan herself didn't realize that she had subconsciously distanced herself from Li Mo. Li Mo guessed that Wei Hai must have said something to Yun Ruoyan, but judging from Yun Ruoyan's attitude, it seemed that she didn't know much about it, so she only seemed to dislike him a little. Li Mo thought that he should find an opportunity to tell Yun Ruoyan about the human furnace, but the most important matter at the moment was the alternate dimension. If he were to tell Yun Ruoyan about this matter now, Li Mo couldn't predict how she would react, so he decided to put the matter aside for now. Yan, no matter what happens, you have to remember that you're the woman I care about very much, Li Mo said slowly as he hugged Yun Ruoyan. Although Li Mo had always enjoyed being close to Yun Ruoyan, this was the first time he'd said something so straightforward and mushy. Yun Ruoyan's face reddened and she burst out laughing. She buried her face in Li Mo's chest, her hands slowly tightening around Li Mo's waist. Are you afraid that I'll forget that you're the slaughtering king that everyone fears? Yun Ruoyan laughed. Ha, Li Mo chuckled. Others might be afraid of me but not my Yan. Chapter 246. Your Highness, Slaughtering King. Yun Ruoyan lifted her head from Li Mo's chest. You didn't come all the way here just to say these few words, did you? Li Mo couldn't help but tap her on the forehead when he saw Yun Ruoyan's innocent expression. Ouch, why did you hit me? It hurts. Yun Ruoyan clutched her forehead and glared at Li Mo. If you have something to say, hurry up and say it. I still have to go to class. You don't have to go to class. Li Mo let go of Yun Ruoyan and pulled her over to a small table. He began to explain the situation in the alternate dimension to Yun Ruoyan. Before me, the Great Elder had actually accepted 2 disciples, one male and one female. However, they both died in the otherworld trials. Although I've never been to the alternate dimension, I'm well aware of its dangers. Each time, less than 1/10 of my fellow disciples make it out alive and sometimes not even a single one. This time, for some reason, the alternate dimension opened earlier than expected, and the number of people entering has increased by 1/3. I'm afraid that it's even more dangerous than before. Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan. Tomorrow, the elders will decide on the list of students participating in the alternate dimension. If you don't want to go, will you? Yun Ruoyan interrupted Li Mo, her bright eyes looking at him. I wanted to go 3 years ago but the first elder stopped me. This time I have to go but you dash, I'm going too. Yun Ruoyan interrupted Li Mo once more, her tone firm. I'm going with you. That night at the top of the Southern College's tower, Li Mo, the 6 elders and the first elder's disciple, were in the midst of a meeting. You all know that our Central College has always been known as the useless college, so we can't produce any students. The 6th elder was the one speaking, his face smiling as if he didn't care about his reputation at all. 6th elder, you're far too unkind. The 3rd elder used his fat finger to point at the 6th elder and continued. If we were to rank them according to their ranks, none of the students from the other 4 academies could compare to the students from your academy. It was common knowledge that the students of the Central College, which the 6th elder represented, were the weakest in all of Kongming Academy. However, in order to ensure that the students of the Central College wouldn't be so weak when they graduated, the 6th elder had resorted to cheating to help them advance in rank. Who's the unkind one? The 6th elder wasn't willing. Who here doesn't know about our academy's situation? Isn't letting them go to the otherworld the same as sending them to their deaths? Our academy's cultivation is also low, so even if they go, they'll still be sending themselves to their deaths. The Western Academy's elder echoed. None of you are willing to send anyone. Could it be that we, the 3 courtyards, have to send all 30 people? The 2nd elder, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. As soon as the 2nd elder spoke, everyone shut their mouths. It could be seen that everyone was somewhat afraid of him. As the saying goes, the capable do more work. After a long while, the 6th elder said in a low voice. Old 6, what are you whispering about? If you have something to say it out loud. Let's all hear it, the 2nd elder said coldly. That's right, 6th elder. Everyone should be sharing the spots equally, but you're refusing to do so. Based on the percentage of students who survive each expedition, those who are 1 or 2 ranks higher than the others are practically negligible. In any case, they'll all be sending themselves to their deaths. That's right. In my opinion, it's better to send those with lower cultivation than those with higher cultivation, the 5th elder said. 5th elder, what do you mean by that? The 6th elder's eyes widened in shock. Are you trying to cheat? The minimum requirement for entering the otherworld was for 8th rank blade masters. Before that, any 5th rank blade master could be included in the list, and once it was made, it wouldn't be changed. After the training, the chosen students' cultivation would increase. If they still couldn't become 8th rank blade masters after the training, they would be given a spiritual pill that would forcibly increase their cultivation. This spiritual pill was only suitable for 4th-rank blade masters and above. As long as one satisfied this condition, they would be able to reach 8th rank in a short period of time. However, this pill had certain side effects. If one only used it to increase 1 or 2 ranks, the side effects wouldn't be obvious, but if one used it to increase one's cultivation by more than 2 ranks, it would be like spoiling a seedling to help it grow. Once consumed, there would be no obvious increase in cultivation. In addition, his ability to draw spiritual energy into his body and use it to fight was much weaker than others. He was basically a fake 8th-rank blade master, just there to make up the numbers. Heh. The 5th elder chuckled. 6th elder, why are you so surprised? Isn't cheating your forte? 5th elder, don't get it wrong. My cheating isn't a big deal, but it's a big deal. Cheating is a very important matter. Why not? I think 5th elder's suggestion is very good. What's good about it? If we are discovered by the guards of the Otherworld Gate, the consequences will be unthinkable. The elders began to argue with each other again. Li Mo sat by the 1st elder's side, not saying a word. He was already used to such a scene. In the past, every time the gate between worlds opened, the elders would argue for a long time in order to decide on the list of students to go to the Otherworld. The students who didn't know what was going on the other hand, were all looking forward to the treasure hunt. Every time, the students from the Central College would be dissatisfied with the small number of names they received, feeling that the other 5 colleges were bullying them. All right, the 1st elder finally said. Everyone, including the 2nd elder, quietened down at this moment. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the great elder. Cheating isn't an option. The 1st elder immediately rejected the 5th elder's suggestion. If they sent someone with some cultivation, there would still be a chance of survival. But if they cheated, the person sent out would undoubtedly die. As the 1st elder of Kongming Academy, he couldn't bear to see so many innocent students go to their deaths. The 1st elder would rather send out a few students who had a chance of survival. If they managed to escape, they would surely become the strongest cultivators on the Qinyuan continent. To them, this was an opportunity. We'll need a total of 30 students this time. The Southern College will send 10, the 1st elder continued. The Northern College will send 8 and the Western and Eastern colleges will send 5 each. The 1st elder turned to the 6th elder. The Central College will send 2. What do you think? The 6th elder seemed to have something else to say, but after a moment's thought he decided against it. Then it settled. The 1st elder stood up from his seat. I'll give you 1 day to come up with a name list and submit it to me as soon as possible. We only have a year's time for the training. Li Mo will be in charge of the training in the alternate dimension, and he's also on the list to enter the alternate dimension. In the Central District, the 6th elder found Zhou Yifeng and told him about the training in the alternate dimension. Although you're a new student, your cultivation is one of the best in the entire Central College. As such, I'm prepared to give you one of the 2 slots to enter the alternate dimension. Hearing this news, Zhou Yifeng's bright eyes became even brighter because of excitement. Thank you, 6th elder, for giving me this opportunity. I won't let you down. Most of the new students had heard about the alternate dimension from the older students. Naturally, Zhou Yifeng had heard of it as well. Those who had been chosen to enter the alternate dimension were all experts of the academy. The alternate dimension was filled with treasures, and it was a place that everyone yearned for. Anyone who managed to walk out of the alternate dimension would become an influential figure on the Qinyuan continent. It was said that the heads of the 4 empires' chambers of commerce, the Yuelu Villa's master Dong Tiahe and the commander of the northern barracks of the Li Kingdom, General Huang, were all experts who had come from the alternate dimension. The students of Kongming Academy were always excited when they heard this. Being able to enter the alternate dimension had become one of their dreams. Seeing Zhou Yifeng's excited expression, the 6th elder couldn't help but say a few more words. Although there are many treasures in the alternate dimension, it's also extremely dangerous. You mustn't let your guard down. You must prioritize your life above all treasures. Yifeng understands. Thank you for your guidance, 6th elder, Zhou Yifeng said gratefully. Right, you may go. The 6th elder waved his hand at Zhou Yifeng, who bowed and retreated. The 6th elder looked at Zhou Yifeng's retreating figure and couldn't help but sigh. It hadn't been easy for him to recruit a talented student who suited his tastes, and now he was about to send him off to a dangerous place. The sixth elder couldn't bear to see him go. After Zhou Yifeng left the sixth elder's residence, he didn't return to the male dormitory. Instead, he took a detour to the cliff at the back of the mountain. Zhou Yifeng arrived at the edge of the cliff. Seeing that it was still early, he pulled out a pheasant that he had hunted that morning from a nearby bush. Because of the cold weather, the pheasant had already been frozen stiff. Zhou Yifeng used his right hand to pat the pheasant in his left hand, causing the stiff pheasant to soften. Afterwards, Zhou Yifeng took the pheasant to a nearby spring and began to tidy it up. After tidying up the pheasant, he spread the seasoning he'd prepared and started to roast it. Not long after, the smell of burnt meat filled the air. At this time, a black figure silently appeared in front of Zhou Yifeng. Zhou Yifeng was so focused on roasting the pheasant that he didn't notice the person's arrival. Until the black figure walked over and sat down in front of him. Only then did Zhou Yifeng raise his head in alarm. "Senior, you've come." Zhou Yifeng had a joyful smile on his face. His beastman eyes flickered with two flickering flames. The black figure only glanced at Zhou Yifeng before quickly lowering his head. He casually picked up a wooden stick from the ground and threw it into the fire. He casually said, "Your reaction to danger is so low. Your punishment is to practice the wooden vine technique 100 times. Chapter 247. Yes, Senior. Zhou Yifeng said with a smile, not the slightest bit dissatisfied with the punishment. Senior, it'll be ready soon. Zhou Yifeng flipped the meat over the fire, then took out some spices and sprinkled them on top of the meat. In an instant, a strange aroma filled the air. The black-clothed man couldn't help but swallow and say, "Your barbecue skills are quite good. It's a skill passed down in my family." Zhou Yifeng replied with a smile. "I still remember when my father taught me how to barbecue when I was a child. That was what I called delicious." About half a month ago, Zhou Yifeng caught some game and barbecued it by himself. The black-clothed man suddenly appeared and asked Zhou Yifeng for it, so Zhou Yifeng gave it to him. Unexpectedly, the black-clothed man became addicted to it. He made a request to Zhou Yifeng, asking him to come here every 3 days to prepare game for him. As a reward, the black-clothed man taught him an external technique to cultivate spirit force. Under the black-clothed man's guidance, Zhou Yifeng began to cultivate a wood attribute technique. The wooden vine technique was the first external technique the black-clothed man taught Zhou Yifeng. "Master, here." Zhou Yifeng handed the roasted game to the black-clothed man. "Master, last time you said you were going to teach me a second wood attribute technique. Is it starting today?" "Don't call me master." The black-clothed man took the barbecued meat from Zhou Yifeng and said in a cold voice, "You and I are just acquaintances. I taught you my cultivation technique in exchange for your delicious food. There is no master-disciple relationship between us." "Senior, I understand," Zhou Yifeng said in a somewhat discouraged manner. In the past half a month, Zhou Yifeng had tried many times to get closer to the black-clothed man, but the black-clothed man always tried his best to keep his distance. For some reason, the first time Zhou Yifeng saw this person, he felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. This person always wore a mask, and Zhou Yifeng clearly hadn't seen his face before. This sense of familiarity was strange, but it was so strong that Zhou Yifeng couldn't help but want to get closer to this person and hold on to him. When this man had first taught Zhou Yifeng how to cultivate, Zhou Yifeng had asked to become his disciple, but the man in black had decisively rejected him. Later on, Zhou Yifeng had purposely made a few slips of the tongue to test the black-clothed man's intentions. Each time he had been doused with cold water by the black-clothed man. This time was no exception. From the looks of it, the black-clothed man was determined to have nothing to do with him. Perhaps once the black-clothed man had his fill of roasted game, he wouldn't appear again. Zhou Yifeng couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. People always have to rely on themselves. Never think of grabbing someone to rely on. The man in black seemed to see through Zhou Yifeng's thoughts. As he ate, he spoke slowly. "Everyone in this world has their own destiny. Your destiny is to make yourself stronger." "Senior." Zhou Yifeng sat in front of the black-clothed man, looked at him and asked, "Senior, what is your mission? Can you tell me?" "Don't ask what you can't ask." The black-clothed man stopped eating and stood up, looking at Zhou Yifeng. Different from Zhou Yifeng, the black-clothed man's eyes were dark, like a deep well without a trace of light. Even the whites of his eyes were covered with black shadows. Zhou Yifeng also stood up. Today, I will teach you a second set of wood attribute external techniques. As the black-clothed man spoke, he stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. A green gaseous substance appeared in the black-clothed man's palm. The wild vine technique requires the presence of wild vines in the surroundings, but this chaotic leaf needle technique doesn't. The black-clothed man spread out his palm in front of Zhou Yifeng, and a dark green leaf appeared in his palm. Use your own perception of the wood attribute in the air to control them, and condense them into the shape you want. The black-clothed man used his 2 hands to control the leaf in his hand. The lone leaf rapidly changed shape and number between the black-clothed man's hands. Sometimes it was as small as needles, densely packed together to form a spherical object. Sometimes it was just an ordinary flat leaf. There were dozens of them in a row and their edges were as sharp as knives. With one look, one could tell that it was very powerful. Did you see it clearly? The black-clothed man looked at Zhou Yifeng and asked. Yes, I saw it clearly. Zhou Yifeng nodded. The black-clothed man made a move with both hands, and the leaves in his hands flew out, hitting the huge rock in front of him. Then, with a series of cracking sounds, countless cracks appeared on the huge mountain rock, and then it collapsed and shattered into a pile of small stones. Zhou Yifeng looked at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. He couldn't help but praise, so powerful. This is only a mid-level wood attribute external spiritual force cultivation method. The black-clothed man said, you must practice it together with the wood attribute internal spiritual force cultivation method I taught you before. Otherwise, with your current spiritual force cultivation, you won't be able to expand your spiritual C. If your spiritual C is too weak, your spiritual force won't be enough, and you won't be able to support the use of a mid-level cultivation method. I will follow Senior's teachings. Zhou Yifeng cupped his hands. Alright, that's it for today. When the black-clothed man turned to leave, he added, first practice the wild vine technique 100 times, and then practice the chaotic leaf needle technique. Senior, Zhou Yifeng called out to the black-clothed man from behind, I've already been chosen to participate in the Otherworld trial. I'll probably be training tomorrow, so I won't be able to make barbecue for Senior for a year. I hope Senior takes care of yourself. The man in black stopped for a moment and said, you also have to take care. I hope that after a year I will still be able to taste your craftsmanship. After saying that, the man in black walked away without stopping. I'll definitely return, Senior. I, Zhou Yifeng, promise you that I'll become stronger with my own strength. Zhou Yifeng looked at the black-clothed man's back as though he were making a vow. The black-clothed man reached out a hand, waved, and disappeared behind a large boulder. Zhou Yifeng let out a long breath, his gaze resolute as he looked at another boulder not far away. That boulder was covered in dense, wild vines. Zhou Yifeng walked over and began practicing the wild vine technique 100 times. When the black-clothed man arrived on the other side of the cliff, he saw a black-robed man standing there. Your Highness, the black-clothed man greeted with a bow. Sunan, there's no need for such formalities, Liemo said, turning back to Sunan. Sunan straightened up and removed the black cloth covering his face, revealing a resolute face and a pair of unusually bright eyes. Thank you, Your Highness, for arranging for me to meet Feng and pass on my techniques to him, Sunan said gratefully. It's no trouble at all. Zhou Yifeng's talent for cultivation isn't bad. With a little nurturing, he won't be any weaker than you, Liemo praised sincerely. Sunan couldn't help but look gratified. After a moment's thought, he said, I heard from Feng that he's been chosen to enter the alternate dimension. Although Sunan hadn't entered the foreign land before, he still had some understanding of the dangers there. Given Feng's current strength, I'm afraid he won't be able to return from the alternate dimension, Sunan said worriedly. If Zhou Yifeng were in the Southern College, I could think of something, Liemo replied. But he's in the Central College and I can't overstep my authority. However, I'll be entering the alternate dimension as well and I'll do my best to take care of him. Sunan was quite relieved to have Liemo's protection. Thank you, Your Highness, Sunan said. I've been in contact with Feng these past few days, and I've discovered that he harbors a deep hatred for you. If one day he offends Wuxia, I, as an incompetent father, will first apologize on his behalf. Zhou Yifeng had always viewed Liemo as the enemy who had killed his father and clan, and his goal had always been to defeat Liemo to avenge his father. Zhou Yifeng had initially entered the Southern College, and it was only after discovering that Zhou Yifeng was in the Southern College that the Central College was modified. From this, one could see just how deep his hatred for Li Mo ran. "Sunan, have you no intention of reuniting with Zhou Yifeng?" Li Mo tilted his head slightly. "Before completing my oath to the Beast King, I can't have any attachments." Sunan's face was as resolute as ever. "Besides, there'll be too many things that I can't explain to them. In order to help Empress Xuetong find her true body, a war with the Silver Dragons was bound to break out sooner or later." Sunan's refusal to reunite with Zhou Yifeng and his sister was in fact an attempt to protect them. Li Mo was naturally aware of this. "Don't worry, Sunan. One day I'll have you reunite with your father," Li Mo said slowly as he gazed at the sea of clouds. The next day the names of all 30 students from the 5 colleges were announced. The list was pasted on a wall in the plaza with Li Mo's name at the top, followed by Yun Ruoyan's. When the students heard the news, they all rushed to the plaza to take a look. "Boss, your name isn't on the list," a slender student by Guan Tianyu's side reported. Guan Tianyu clenched his fists and looked through the list several times. Indeed, his name wasn't on it. Yun Ruoyan, Rong Yueshan, Pei Zhou Yifeng and Zhao Gang were all on the list but not Guan Tianyu. "The Southern College has the most spots, 10, the slender student exclaimed exaggeratedly. "Our Northern College has 2 fewer spots than the Southern College. Even the useless college of the Central College has 2 spots. What a waste." The list showed that apart from Zhou Yifeng, there was also a female student named Yan Hui. That female student would be able to enter one of the 3 colleges next year, and if she passed the entrance exam a year later, she would be able to graduate. If the portal hadn't opened a year earlier, Yan Hui would have escaped this calamity and become a rare elite of the Central College. Unfortunately, she was unlucky, and the portal had opened earlier than expected. The 6th elder had put in a lot of effort to include Yan Hui on the list. As for the Northern College, which required 8 spots, the 2nd elder naturally wasn't willing to send his grandson to his death. As a result, Rong Yueshan and Yi Qianying were on the list, but Guan Tianyu was nowhere to be found. Many of the students didn't understand why, and they were dissatisfied that they hadn't made it onto the list. Among them was the king of the Northern College, Guan Tianyu. Chapter 248. Guan Tianyu was used to taking advantage of others and he didn't want to be taken advantage of. He didn't understand why so many new students were on the list, but he wasn't. His cultivation wasn't weak and he hadn't entered the 3 institutions yet, so he was qualified to be on the list. Guan Tianyu's gaze landed on Yun Ruoyan's name after Li Mo's, and a vicious glint appeared in his eyes. Last time he and Rong Yueshan had exchanged blows with Yun Ruoyan, and he knew that her cultivation wasn't weak, perhaps even higher than Rong Yueshan's. However, she was still far from his level. Even without the aid of the bracelet, Yun Ruoyan was a peak 7th rank blade master, whereas Guan Tianyu was already an 8th rank blade master, and he was in the midst of training with his own flying swords. Although on the surface, Guan Tianyu was only a single rank higher than Yun Ruoyan, this difference in cultivation was often enough to overwhelm her. Guan Tianyu was burning with rage and he immediately wanted to find someone to beat the crap out of. "Sister Ruan, your name's on the list and it's at the very front." Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen pulled Yun Ruoyan into the crowd. Because she'd already known the result, Yun Ruoyan wasn't surprised at all. "I've heard that there are treasures everywhere in this alternate dimension, and some of them are of extremely high quality. They're rare on the Qinyuan continent," Lin Qingxue exclaimed. "I've heard that too. Apparently, many spiritual herbs and herbs that are extinct on the Qinyuan continent are the rarest and most common in this alternate dimension." Lin Qingchen's eyes were also filled with longing. "But that's all hearsay. I don't think anyone from the academy has personally ventured into this alternate dimension. The elders have all returned from this alternate dimension, and it's said that some of the instructors from the 3 institutions have also returned from that dimension." At some point, Zhong Yang had appeared by their side, and he had clearly overheard their conversation. However, when those who have gone to the other dimension return, they're all tight-lipped about the specifics of the place, but the treasures they bring back are truly peerless, giving rise to the legend that the other dimension is filled with treasures. "I don't know much about the other dimension either, but this time I'll be able to explore it for myself," Guan Ruliu explained when she saw everyone's gazes on her. That's right, I didn't expect that I, Zhou Xian, would have the opportunity to enter this alternate dimension. Zhou Xian couldn't help but laugh as he looked at his name behind Guan Ruliu's. Based on what they knew, those who entered the alternate dimension didn't have to return to the 5 colleges. Instead, they could choose to enter the 3 institutions and cultivate on their own, or they could graduate from Kongming Academy and establish themselves on the Qinyuan continent. Yun Ruoyan clearly knew more about the alternate dimension than the others, but Li Mo had told her that, in order to avoid panic, the elders had requested that the dangers of the alternate dimension be kept a secret. Furthermore, in order to appease the students who had been chosen, the information that had been released was all positive. Most of the students who had died in the alternate dimension had also been kept a secret by the elders. If everyone were to know that the odds of surviving in the alternate dimension were less than 1 in 10, and that there was even a chance that the entire group would be wiped out, it would be very difficult for anyone to enter the alternate dimension again. Hey you guys. As they conversed, a skinny student by Guan Tianyu's side called out to Yun Ruoyan's group. Didn't you hear our boss calling for you? Yun Ruoyan's group looked in the direction of the voice. Yun Ruoyan's group turned toward the source of the voice, only to see the tall and burly Guan Tianyu walking toward them. That tyrant's trying to cause trouble again. Lin Qingshua's expression was somewhat displeased. But why haven't I seen Rong Yueshan's group yet? Only then did Yun Ruoyan realize that Rong Yueshan, Pei Zio, and Yi Qianying were indeed nowhere to be seen. I'm talking to you guys. Are you deaf or mute? The skinny student by Guan Tianyu's side had a sharp and clear voice, instantly attracting the attention of a large group of people in the plaza. As soon as the crowd saw the tyrant of the Northern College, they spontaneously made way for them, forming a circle around Yun Ruoyan and Guan Tianyu. Based on past experience, Guan Tianyu was about to teach someone a lesson. Without the crowd blocking his path, Guan Tianyu quickly walked up to Yun Ruoyan. He looked down at Yun Ruoyan condescendingly and said disdainfully, "To think that someone like you would have the right to enter this dimension." Yun Ruoyan only smiled at him. Not wanting to waste her breath on him, she turned to leave. "What's wrong? Are you afraid that I'll expose you in front of so many people? Don't think that just because you're Master Mo's disciple that I won't dare do anything to you," Guan Tianyu laughed. "There's no one in Kongming Academy that I'm afraid of." Someone in the crowd seemed to have caught on to Guan Tianyu's hidden meaning. "I got it too," another person added. "What's he trying to expose Yun Ruoyan in front of so many people? Who cares? In any case, there's going to be a good show to watch today. Since this tyrant didn't make it onto the list, he's definitely not going to let the matter rest." Yun Ruoyan wasn't affected in the slightest by Guan Tianyu's words or the surrounding crowd's discussion. Yun Ruoyan wasn't afraid of trouble, but she knew that there were some things that she didn't need to waste her energy on. If she had the time to waste talking, she might as well prepare for tomorrow's training. "Do you really think that no one else knows about your relationship with Master Mo?" Guan Tianyu felt even more despised when he saw that Yun Ruoyan was ignoring him, and he didn't mince his words. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Lin Qingxue was furious. She had been about to leave with Yun Ruoyan, but now she stopped and turned to look at Guan Tianyu. This tall, burly fellow was like a chatterbox, and when he saw Lin Qingshua's anger, he smiled even more smugly. "I'm not spouting nonsense. I heard all of this from Yi Qianying and Rong Yueshan." Guan Tianyu crossed his arms as if he'd hit the nail on the head. "I'm sure there are some in the academy who don't know that apart from being the head disciple of one of the elders, Master Mo has another identity in the secular world, the slaughtering king of the Li Kingdom." Guan Tianyu's words caused some of the crowd to sigh. Clearly, this was the first time they'd heard of this news. Others weren't surprised, but they were still intrigued by Guan Tianyu's mysterious tone. According to the two of them, Master Mo and Yun Ruoyan had an ambiguous relationship when they were still in the Li Kingdom, and Master Mo even proposed marriage to Yun Ruoyan. Guan Tianyu continued, "I didn't expect that the two of them would become master and disciple after arriving at Kongming Academy. A master for a day, a father for life. Those who didn't know better would think that the two of them were indeed master and disciple. Those who didn't know better would think that they were master and disciple." Guan Tianyu's words were quite harsh, and he directly attacked Li Mo's reputation. For a moment, the surrounding crowd didn't even dare to continue the conversation. Not only was Master Mo's name resounding throughout Kongming Academy, But his reputation as the Slaughtering King was also known throughout the entire Qinyuan continent. Only someone like Guan Tianyu, who had a powerful backing and was a despicable tyrant, would dare to defame Li Mo so openly. Both Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen trembled with anger, but they didn't know how to refute Guan Tianyu's accusation. Although Guan Tianyu's words were harsh, they weren't baseless. The Lin sisters were well aware of the relationship between Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, and they had been particularly surprised when Li Mo had accepted Yun Ruoyan as his disciple. Afterward, the Lin sisters had asked Yun Ruoyan about the matter, but Yun Ruoyan didn't want to talk about it, so they didn't press the matter. However, this matter had always been on the Lin sisters' minds. Now that Guan Tianyu had brought it up, they didn't know how to respond. Guan Tianyu, do you know what you're saying? The one who spoke was Guan Ruliu. She was the senior disciple of the Southern College, and although she wouldn't normally intervene in such trivial matters, this matter concerned Master Mo's reputation, and she had no choice but to speak up. Guan Tianyu never make things up. If I were lying, why wouldn't Yun Ruoyan dare to speak up? Guan Tianyu looked at Yun Ruoyan, still trying to provoke her. This was Guan Tianyu's usual tactic. If he wanted to find trouble with someone, he would first try to provoke them, and when they retaliated, he would have the perfect opportunity to teach them a lesson. This was also one of Guan Tianyu's main methods of avoiding punishment after bullying someone. Guan Tianyu. When everyone's eyes were on Yun Ruoyan, she finally spoke up. Although I'm a new student, I'm well aware of your tendency to bully others whenever you're unhappy. Yun Ruoyan clasped her hands behind her back, her posture haughty. You want to provoke me, so you're slandering Master Mo. No student of the Southern College will tolerate such behavior. Li Mo had quite a reputation at Kongming Academy, especially among the Southern College's students. Some of the Southern College's students had been furious when they'd heard Guan Tianyu's words, and now that they heard Yun Ruoyan's words, they were even more furious. This tyrant of the Northern College sure is audacious. It's one thing for her to bully her juniors, but this time she's slandering Master Mo. She really needs to be taught a lesson. So the Slaughtering King is actually Master Mo? That's amazing. Someone actually dared to defame such a powerful person? They must be tired of living. Yun Ruoyan smiled coldly. Since you want to fight with me, I'll grant you your wish, lest you come up with any other dirty ideas. She stepped forward, ready to receive Guan Tianyu's blow. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Guan Tianyu didn't care about what the others said. Guan Tianyu's goal was simple. He wanted to injure Yun Ruoyan so that she wouldn't be able to participate in the training. If she couldn't participate, she wouldn't be able to enter the alternate dimension, and that extra spot would be his. Chapter 249. If I'd known you'd be so straightforward, I wouldn't have wasted so much saliva on you. Guan Tianyu smiled wickedly. Come, make your move. Yun Ruoyan hated Guan Tianyu to the core, and she didn't hesitate to send a fireball flying at him. After a period of practice, Yun Ruoyan's fireball technique had become much more proficient and powerful than before. The fireball she conjured was more than twice as large as before. Yun Ruoyan stretched out her hand, and the fireball left a long trail in the air as it flew toward Guan Tianyu. Guan Tianyu's face revealed a hint of surprise, and he quickly used his ice-attuned external spiritual technique. He pushed out his hands and green spiritual energy quickly condensed in front of him. He attempted to create an ice wall in the shortest time possible to block Yun Ruoyan's fireball. However, by the time Yun Ruoyan's fireball reached Guan Tianyu, his ice wall had only formed halfway. Half of the fireball was blocked by the ice wall, and the other half licked Guan Tianyu's lower body. Guan Tianyu's white academy uniform was instantly set ablaze by the fireball. Guan Tianyu's expression changed, and he hurriedly used one hand to condense water vapor to extinguish the flames on his robes. Haha, he's on fire. Lin Qingxue laughed gloatingly. That's what you get for spouting nonsense. Yun Ruoyan's hands remained behind her back, as if she hadn't expended any energy at all. Guan Tianyu, on the other hand, looked far more disheveled. How impressive. I saw Yun Ruoyan's fireball technique back in the cafeteria, but it wasn't this impressive. In less than a month, her fireball technique has more than doubled in power. Master Mo's disciple truly lives up to her name. This Guan Tianyu's really got himself a tough nut to crack. Guan Tianyu quickly extinguished the flames on his robes. Although he looked disheveled, he wasn't really injured. Boss, are you alright? The skinny student had fled as soon as the fireball had struck, and now he was running back. Get lost, useless thing. Exasperated, Guan Tianyu shoved the scrawny student aside. The scrawny student was shorter than Guan Tianyu by more than a head, and his arms weren't even half as thick as Guan Tianyu's. The shove sent him sprawling to the ground. "Ayo!" The skinny student could not help but cry out in pain, but no one stretched out a hand to help him up. Instead, it caused a wave of laughter. What a good henchman trying to flatter him backfired. "Ah, that's a good fall. I've long found him an eyesore." "No, I find both of them an eyesore." Everyone laughed. Even the students of the Northern College mocked him. What a good henchman trying to flatter him. Guan Tianyu usually relied on the second elder's influence, not respecting his senior brothers and sisters at all. He didn't even care about his junior brothers and sisters, and did whatever he wanted in the Northern College. He was even more arrogant and insufferably arrogant towards students from other academies. Furthermore, this scrawny student was always acting like a tyrant by Guan Tianyu's side. "Yun Ruoyan, I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. It seems I've underestimated you." Guan Tianyu straightened his robes and raised his head. "Now it's my turn to attack, and I won't hold back." With a wave of his hand, Guan Tianyu unleashed a row of icy blades at her. There were more than 10 ice blades in the row, and they fanned out in Yun Ruoyan's direction. It was clear that Guan Tianyu was using his full strength. Each of those ice blades was exceptionally sharp, and because there were so many of them, they had a large area of effect. Although Yun Ruoyan's fireball technique was powerful, her target was only Guan Tianyu, and it wouldn't affect anyone else around her. Everyone present broke out in a cold sweat when they saw Guan Tianyu use this technique. Guan Tianyu must have been so angry that he'd lost his mind. Was he going to affect everyone around him with such a large area of effect? In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so ice blades reached Yun Ruoyan. She wasn't strong enough to melt them all with a fireball. Even if she tried to, she would only be able to melt a small portion of the ice blades, and the rest wouldn't be able to be blocked. Around Yun Ruoyan, Lin Qingchen, and quite a few other students from the Southern College who didn't have high cultivations. It wouldn't have been difficult for her to protect herself, but it would have taken a lot of effort to protect others. "Senior Sister Guan." Yun Ruoyan hurriedly glanced at Guan Ruliu, who understood and stepped forward to stand in front of Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan sent out 4 fireballs in a row, melting 4 of the ice blades. The remaining ones were already in front of the 2 of them. Suddenly, Guan Ruliu took out a vine from her waist and threw it at the ice blades in front of her. The vine grew as the wind blew, and it was as long and slender as a jade-green snake. It was like a whip with a life of its own, shattering 7 or 8 ice blades in a row. It was really amazing. It looks like the students from the Southern College aren't all that bad. In that case, I won't hold back. As Guan Tianyu spoke, he once again released a large number of ice blades. The crowd estimated that there were more than 20 of them. "Guan Tianyu!" Yun Ruoyan shouted. "If you want to deal with me, you should be aiming at me alone. What's wrong with you now?" By this time, Guan Ruliu had already begun to disperse the crowd behind her. However, there were too many people, and some who didn't know what was going on were still squeezing in to watch the show. She couldn't disperse the crowd in a short time. "Can't you tell? I'm casting a net wide to catch a big fish." Guan Tianyu looked as if he didn't care about the consequences. "Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Hall of Penitence if you hurt others?" Yun Ruoyan asked harshly. Last time, Master Rong of the Northern College said in front of everyone that anyone who hurts a fellow student will be sent to the Hall of Penitence for punishment. Guan Tianyu laughed coldly. "My ice blades will only hurt people, not kill them. As long as they don't die, I won't be in trouble. Cut the crap and take this." As soon as he finished speaking, Guan Tianyu pushed his palms forward, and the row of 20-odd ice blades flew toward Yun Ruoyan. Guan Ruliu, Zhong Yang, and the Lin sisters were all doing their best to disperse the crowd behind them. Yun Ruoyan was the only one blocking the ice blades, and she was forced to retreat again and again, buying time to form more fireballs. Everyone else was worried for Yun Ruoyan. It was impossible for her to deal with so many ice blades by herself. Yun Ruoyan didn't have time to think about anything else. All she could do was try her best. Just as Yun Ruoyan had melted a few of the ice blades and the rest were about to reach her, a wave of emerald leaves suddenly flew out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, a large number of dark green leaves suddenly flew out, and the number of those leaves was much more than the ice blades. The ice blades collided with the leaves, sending shards of ice and shards of green flying. "Who's there?" Guan Tianyu looked around. "Who's the busybody?" "It's me." A low, masculine voice rang out from the crowd. Everyone turned toward the source of the voice, only to see a tall, burly youth about the same height as Guan Tianyu walk out from the crowd. This man was none other than Zhou Yifeng, who had been transferred from the Southern College to the Central College. "Brother Zhua," Lin Qingxue called out happily. "You've come just in time. This guy's so annoying. Why don't you and Sister Ruan teach him a lesson together?" Zhou Yifeng's cold expression softened somewhat when he saw Lin Qingxue's smiling face. When he met Yun Ruoyan's gaze, he nodded slightly. Yun Ruoyan nodded back at him. The rapport between the two of them, honed through countless life-and-death battles, returned in an instant. At this moment, the two of them gave each other the feeling that they had become stronger. Although their cultivation as blade masters hadn't increased by much, the fact that they had both trained in external spiritual techniques had strengthened their connection to the spiritual energy around them. As a result, their auras had changed as well. The two of them stood side by side, one on the left and one on the right. They didn't speak, but they seemed to be in perfect harmony with one another. "And where did you come from?" Guan Tianyu asked. Ever since Zhou Yifeng had entered the Central College, he hadn't gone out much, so many of the older students didn't recognize him. Boss, he's Zhou Yifeng, the trash of the Central College." A skinny student leaned over to Guan Tianyu's side, holding his bent waist. "Humph." Guan Tianyu snorted. "I was wondering who it was, but it turns out to be the trash of the Central College." "It doesn't matter who I am," Guan Tianyu replied. Zhou Yifeng looked at Guan Tianyu with bright eyes. "What's important is that you'll pay for bullying my friend." When Guan Tianyu met Zhou Yifeng's unusually bright eyes, he paused for a moment before scoffing. "So it's a beastkin brat. Since when did Kongming Academy accept such a lowly beastkin as a student? Is there no one else on the Qinyuan continent?" As soon as Guan Tianyu finished speaking, a large swarm of tiny jade-green needles suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Looking at the densely packed area, it was simply impossible to estimate their numbers. Guan Tianyu was someone who had undergone training in the alternate dimension, and he didn't panic at Zhou Yifeng's sudden attack. He grabbed the skinny student by his side and used him as a shield. "Oh my mother!" What followed was a howl like a pig being slaughtered. More than half of the densely packed flying leaf needles were fixed on the skinny student's body. However, because the skinny student was too short and Guan Tianyu was too tall, Guan Tianyu was able to use the student as a shield, but half of the needles still landed on his body. Guan Tianyu looked at the needle-like leaves on his arms. Beads of blood seeped out from the edges of the leaves. Although the wounds were small, there were so many of them that the beads of blood quickly dyed both his arms red. The skinny student who had been used as a shield was even more frightening. His entire back was soaked in blood. Regardless of the severity of his injuries, it was clear that he was in a terrible state. "Zhou Yifeng, you're really ruthless. Are you trying to kill me?" Guan Tianyu's eyes burned with rage, but he didn't dare act recklessly. Zhou Yifeng's external spiritual technique was too strange and powerful, and Guan Tianyu had never seen anything like it before. He couldn't believe that the Central College had produced such a powerful individual. Guan Tianyu could sense that Zhou Yifeng's cultivation was lower than his, but this domineering external technique was more than enough to deal with him. "What's going on here? Why are you all crowding around here instead of going to class?" Rong Tianhai's voice suddenly sounded from outside the crowd. "Master Rong, come quickly." Hearing Rong Tianhai's voice, Guan Tianyu immediately shouted, "Someone is committing murder here. Come and punish him." Chapter 250. Just as Guan Tianyu was being suppressed by Zhou Yifeng's domineering technique, Rong Tianhai suddenly appeared. When Guan Tianyu heard Rong Tianhai's voice, he hurriedly called for help, and the other students quickly made way for him. "Rong Tianhai, you've come just in time. These people injured a fellow student. Hurry up and take them to the Hall of Penitence for punishment." Guan Tianyu's gaze was venomous as he looked at Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng. When Rong Tianhai saw Guan Tianyu and the skinny student covered in blood, he barked coldly, "Who did this? I've already said that anyone who harms a fellow student will be punished by the Hall of Penitence. Are you ignoring my words now?" Where are the students of the Northern College? Rong Tianhai called out to the crowd, and quite a few of the Northern College's students immediately stepped forward. Take these assailants to the Hall of Penitence. Rong Tianhai ordered. Yes, Rong Tianhai. The students replied in unison, then walked toward Yun Ruoyan and Zhu Yifeng. Seeing this, Zhu Yifeng stepped in front of Yun Ruoyan. I was the one who injured them and no one else has anything to do with it. Rong Tianhai looked at Guan Tianyu inquiringly. Who was the one who injured you? Guan Tianyu didn't answer immediately. Instead he began calculating in his heart. Yun Ruoyan is Master Mo's disciple after all. If I capture her and alarm Master Mo, it'll only make matters worse and I won't be able to achieve my goal. Guan Tianyu's current plan was to make sure that one of the students on the list couldn't participate in the training. If they couldn't participate in the training, they wouldn't be able to participate in the expedition in a year's time. In that case he could take their place. What he didn't want the most was to cause trouble, and he would have plenty of opportunities to teach those who had offended him a lesson in the future. The person who injured me was indeed this beastkin brat, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. Rong Tianhai nodded and gestured toward the Northern College students. Two of them stepped forward to detain Zhu Yifeng. Wait. Yun Ruoyan stepped forward to stop him. Her tone was calm, but her eyes were cold as she looked at Rong Tianhai. As an executor of the Hall of Penitence, are you going to judge someone based on a one-sided story? In Kongming Academy, the Hall of Penitence was in charge of punishing students who had committed serious crimes, and it rarely punished students. However, once they were punished, the punishment would definitely be very severe. That was why the students were rather respectful towards the Hall of Penitence. Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen also stepped forward and explained, just now Guan Tianyu not only wanted to injure someone, but he also wanted to implicate the innocent. It's all thanks to Sister Ruoyan and Brother Zhu's intervention that more people would have been injured. That's right, it was that tyrant of the Northern College who provoked us first. That's right, we were just defending ourselves. If they want to be punished, then they should be punished. That's the only way it's fair. Why don't we go find the first elder and the second elder to reason things out? The students of the Southern College protested one after another. Even the other three academies were discussing this unfairly. Rong Tianhai's an instructor from the Northern College. Surely he's not trying to side with Guan Tianyu? Guan Tianyu is the descendant of the second elder of the Northern College, and the Hall of Penitence is under the second elder's control. It's only natural that Rong Tianhai would be biased. That's right, it'd be strange if he wasn't biased. If not for the second elder's support, Guan Tianyu would have long since been locked up in the Hall of Penitence for his actions. Apart from the Northern College's silence, the students of the other three colleges were almost all on one side. Afraid that he would incur the wrath of the students, Rong Tianhai ordered, take both Zhu Yifeng and Guan Tianyu away. I'm also a participant in this matter, so if you want to take Zhu Yifeng away, you'll have to take me away as well. Guan Tianyu had been looking for trouble with Yun Ruoyan, and Zhu Yifeng had injured him because of her. No matter what, Yun Ruoyan couldn't just abandon her comrade. Rong Tianhai glanced sideways at Yun Ruoyan, his tone unfriendly. Are you sure? I'm sure. All right, then take them away as well. Rong Tianhai waved his hand, and two more students from the Northern College stepped forward to take Yun Ruoyan away. Yun Ruoyan stepped back and said coolly, I can walk on my own. At the Hall of Penitence, Yun Ruoyan and Zhu Yifeng were locked up in a wooden cell to await their punishment. The two of them sat facing each other, separated by a small wooden table. Because they hadn't seen each other in a long time, they didn't have much to say to each other. Have all of you been well during this period of time? Zhu Yifeng asked after a long while. Pretty good, Yun Ruoyan replied, then turned to Zhu Yifeng. I heard from Qingxue that you're highly regarded by the Central College, but I didn't expect your cultivation to improve so quickly. The physical technique you used against Guan Tianyu was wood-attuned, wasn't it? Yun Ruoyan's eyes brightened at the mention of cultivation, and she immediately became a chatterbox. That's right, it was a mid-level wood-attuned technique, Zhu Yifeng replied. I noticed that your fireball technique was quite impressive as well. Both of them were surprised by each other's improvements in cultivation. Lin Qingxue would often visit the Central College to find Zhu Yifeng, and she would tell Yun Ruoyan about his situation. In turn, Zhou Yifeng would try to understand Yun Ruoyan's situation through her. However, there were some things that Lin Qingxue didn't know, such as the situation of cultivation, that the two of them couldn't find out through her. The fireball technique I used was only a low-level fire-attuned technique. Yun Ruoyan extended a hand and a small ball of fire appeared in her palm. As Yun Ruoyan continued to infuse it with spiritual energy, the small ball of fire slowly turned into a small fireball, which grew larger and larger until it was the size of an infant's head. The fireball spun in Yun Ruoyan's palm, illuminating both of their faces with a fiery red light. Amazing! Zhou Yifeng couldn't help but praise Yun Ruoyan's proficiency in controlling the fireball's size and movement. Zhou Yifeng, who was also a spiritual cultivator, was well aware that it was much more difficult to control the elemental form of the fireball than to actually form it. Zhou Yifeng had only recently learned a low-level wood-attuned technique, chaotic flying needles. He could form them but he couldn't control them well. Back in the plaza, Zhou Yifeng had only wanted to use this move to intimidate Guan Tianyu, but he couldn't stop himself from unleashing it. As a result, the two of them had been injured. Fortunately, his martial arts were still shallow. According to the black-clothed senior's performance that night, this disorderly flying leaves needles technique was definitely capable of splitting mountains and splitting rocks. It wasn't as simple as just bleeding a little. Yun Ruoyan slowly clenched her fist, extinguishing the flame in her palm. She looked at Zhou Yifeng with a smile. This time both you and I have been chosen to enter the alternate dimension. I hope that we can still face danger together just like before. Yun Ruoyan looked at Zhou Yifeng with hope in her eyes. It wasn't easy to find a partner who she could trust and work well with. Even though Yun Ruoyan knew of the grudge between Zhou Yifeng and Li Mo, she still tried to pull Zhou Yifeng along. After all, teaming up with him in the alternate dimension was undoubtedly the best guarantee of their safety. I'm used to being alone, Zhou Yifeng replied after a long silence. Like everyone else, Zhou Yifeng didn't know much about the alternate dimension, and he didn't know as much about its dangers as Yun Ruoyan did. Zhou Yifeng, listen to me, Yun Ruoyan tried to persuade him. Yun Ruoyan was still trying to convince him. Apart from the treasures that everyone says are everywhere in this alternate dimension, there's even more danger. If you come with us, you don't need to persuade me, Zhou Yifeng interrupted her. I've already made up my mind. Yun Ruoyan wanted to continue, but she was interrupted by a familiar male voice. Yan. Li Mo had appeared outside the wooden cell, his hands behind his back. Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan stood up and quickly walked to the door of the cell. She smiled. I knew you'd come to save us. Li Mo reached his hand into the cell and smacked Yun Ruoyan on the head. Call me master. Yun Ruoyan rubbed her forehead, a little aggrieved as she glared at Li Mo. She didn't know when Li Mo had developed the habit of smacking her on the head, but Yun Ruoyan had protested more than once. Her protests, however, were clearly of no use to a certain someone. Seeing that Li Mo's expression wasn't good, Yun Ruoyan knew that this wasn't the time to lash out, and she could only obediently call him master. Open the door, Li Mo said to one of the guards beside him. The guard immediately bowed and opened the door. Yun Ruoyan walked out of the cell. Seeing that Zhou Yifeng was still sitting on a wooden stool, she called for him to come out. Li Mo clasped his hands behind his back and turned to leave, speaking slowly as he did so. We'll begin training tonight and we'll gather in the plaza at dusk. Anyone who's late will be disqualified. Zhou Yifeng's fists clenched tightly by his side as he stood up and walked out of the cell. Yan keep up, Li Mo instructed as he strode out of the room. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng followed Li Mo out of the Hall of Penitence. Just as they were about to step out of the door, a figure that the three of them didn't welcome appeared. Senior Li Mo. Rong Tianhai blocked in front of Li Mo. These two students have broken the rules, and you're taking them away without even informing me? Aren't you disrespecting the Hall of Penitence a little too much? When Li Mo had come to take Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng away, the guards in the Hall of Penitence hadn't dared to stop him. Instead, they had immediately notified Rong Tianhai, who had hurried over to stop him. Li Mo didn't want to waste time with Rong Tianhai. The expedition will begin in a year's time, and the training will begin tonight. If you keep them here, who's going to take their place? Do you want to go? Rong Tianhai didn't have the authority to know much about the expedition, but he was, after all, an administrator at Kongming Academy, and he had been there for some time. It was easy to guess that the expedition wasn't a good place to go, so he chose to remain silent. If you don't want to, then don't waste everyone's time here. As Li Mo spoke, he circled around Rong Tianhai and continued on his way, treating Rong Tianhai as if he were invisible. Rong Tianhai looked at Li Mo's back and thought angrily, "What are you so proud of? If you ever fall into the hands of the Hall of Penitence again, I won't show you any mercy." Chapter 251. As Rong Tianhai thought to himself, he looked toward the western side of the Hall of Penitence. There was a naturally formed valley there, and it was surrounded by a natural formation. Anyone who violated the heavenly punishment would have to go there to be punished. The last time the heavenly punishment formation had been activated was to punish Li Mo for opening the all-seeing mirror without permission. For some reason, Rong Tianhai had a feeling that Li Mo would be punished again sooner or later. As the three of them walked out of the Hall of Penitence, Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but look back. She hadn't taken a good look when she first entered, but now she saw a plaque hanging above the entrance. The words Hall of Penitence were written on the plaque. Although the words were strong and forceful, there wasn't anything particularly special about it. What caught her attention, however, was what seemed to be a sculpture behind the plaque, beneath the eaves of the roof. Because the sculpture was hidden in the shadows, it didn't attract much attention. However, Yun Ruoyan's gaze was drawn to it. As she walked forward, she infused her eyes with spiritual energy, trying to improve her vision. She could finally see the sculpture clearly. It was a four-legged serpentine creature covered in scales, but it was missing its head. Because it was missing its head, Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell whether it was a dragon or some other kind of monster, but she felt that it was a little strange. "Hey!" Yun Ruoyan turned back to look, but Li Mo suddenly stopped in front of her and she bumped into his back. Yun Ruoyan turned back to look up at him and Li Mo turned back to look down at her. Their gazes met and Yun Ruoyan subconsciously clutched her forehead. "If you were to knock me now, I'd definitely fall out with you." "Miss Yun," Zhou Yifeng said from the side. "I'll go back and make some preparations, then head straight to the plaza." Before Yun Ruoyan could respond, Zhou Yifeng had already left for the Central College. Yun Ruoyan looked at Zhou Yifeng's back and couldn't help but sigh. Was there really no way to resolve the enmity between him and Li Mo? A few questions about Li Mo that Yun Ruoyan had deliberately avoided popped up in her mind. There had to be a reason why Li Mo, as the Beast King's son, had slaughtered so many beastkin. If Li Mo could find a way to resolve the grudge between Zhou Yifeng and Li Mo didn't elaborate, and it wasn't appropriate for her to press the matter. Just as Yun Ruoyan was deep in thought, she felt a sudden pain in her forehead. "Li Mo." Yun Ruoyan clutched her forehead, about to explode. "I heard you volunteered to enter the Hall of Penitence." Li Mo's tone was serious. "So what if I did?" Yun Ruoyan rubbed her forehead as if she hadn't done anything wrong. Yun Ruoyan's fearless demeanor gave Li Mo a headache. He frowned. "Do you know where the Hall of Penitence is?" As she walked past Li Mo, she deliberately nudged him with her elbow. "Don't be so willful in the future," Li Mo warned from behind. "I can't promise that," Yun Ruoyan replied without turning her head. "I can't disregard my friends just to protect myself. If you wanted to help your friends, you could have come to me. There's no need to put yourself in the same position." Li Mo's heart was filled with anger. No one knew better than him what kind of place the Hall of Penitence was. If not for him, and if not for the fact that the training was just around the corner, how could Yun Ruoyan have emerged unscathed from the Hall of Penitence? It was a place that even Li Mo would lose a layer of his skin if he entered. "What if you weren't there?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "What if I couldn't find you in time? What if this person isn't someone you're willing to help?" Li Mo looked at the stubborn woman in front of him, his heart a little sullen. Why couldn't she just be obedient all the time? Whenever she wasn't obedient, Li Mo almost went crazy. "So you were afraid that I wouldn't be willing to help Zhou Yifeng, so you accompanied him to the Hall of Penitence." Li Mo's eyes darkened even more. Yun Ruoyan finally stopped, not knowing what to say. Do you think I'm so narrow-minded?" Of course, Yun Ruoyan didn't think that Li Mo was a narrow-minded person, but she cared too much about Zhou Yifeng to take the risk. You're sure that I care about you, so you're using yourself to provoke me." As soon as Li Mo received news that Yun Ruoyan had been brought to the Hall of Penitence, he had immediately flown over to save her. The entire process had taken less than 5 minutes. Liemo smiled bitterly. This girl was determined to get him. At that moment, Liemo suddenly understood why his mother, Empress Shuetong, had forbidden him from lust. Lust was a weakness, and once it was grasped, it was an extremely dangerous thing to do. Wei Hai's kidnapping of Yun Ruoyan was the best example. That time, it was an outsider who'd taken advantage of his weakness. But this time, Yun Ruoyan had personally come to do so to save another man. No matter how well-mannered Liemo was, he couldn't help but feel angry. Yun Ruoyan knew that she was in the wrong, but she didn't regret her actions. If she were to encounter such a situation again, she would do the same thing. Alright, go back and prepare. Don't be late for the evening gathering, Liemo said when Yun Ruoyan didn't respond. Seeing that Yun Ruoyan wasn't responding, Liemo began flying toward the southern tower. Hey! By the time Yun Ruoyan made a sound, Liemo had already flown far away. He's really angry now. As Yun Ruoyan watched Liemo fly further and further away, she couldn't help but feel vexed. Sister Ruoyan, are you all right? Yun Ruoyan didn't walk far from the female dormitory before she ran into the Lin sisters. The two of them tugged at Yun Ruoyan's sleeves and examined her from head to toe, as if afraid that she might be missing a piece of flesh. As it turned out, after Yun Ruoyan and Zhui Yifeng had been taken away, the two sisters had heard many frightening stories about the Hall of Penitence. They said that the most common punishment for students there was the crippling of their cultivation, or even the breaking of their fingers and hands. The two sisters had been so frightened that they immediately sought out Liemo for help. I'm fine, Yun Ruoyan hurriedly replied. Where's Brother Zhou and Master Imo? Why aren't they with you? Zhou Yifeng has returned to the Central College and Liemo has returned to the Southern College. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, she pulled the two sisters toward a small path by the cliff. Yun Ruoyan didn't know how long this training would take, and she had a few things to tell her sisters. Within the Northern College's high tower, 8 students, including Rong Yueshan, Pei Zio and Yi Qianying, were being lectured by the second elder. The second elder only told them to pay attention to their own safety, and that survival was their top priority. Because he couldn't make it clear, some of his words were a little vague. The 8 students found it strange that the usually stern, cold and taciturn second elder had suddenly become so wishy-washy. Pei Zio, the second elder called out. I'm here. Pei Zio stepped forward to receive his instructions. The second elder extended his hand and handed a flute-like object to Pei Zio. Pei Zio's eyes lit up. This flute-like object was the family heirloom, the spear that had been taken away from him when he entered the Northern College. Pei Zio took the cloud-piercing spear and bowed to the second elder in excitement before retreating. The second elder returned the spiritual weapons to the students one by one, then sent them back to prepare for the upcoming training. Just as Pei Zio and the others left, Rong Tianhai brought Guan Tianyu to the Northern Tower to seek an audience with the second elder. Grandfather. Guan Tianyu knelt down as soon as he saw the second elder. Tianyu, what are you doing? The second elder asked. If you have something to say, get up first. I'm not getting up. Guan Tianyu remained kneeling stubbornly. Grandfather, if you don't agree to let me participate in the training and participate in the expedition in a year's time, I won't get up. Nonsense, the second elder roared. The slots have already been decided, so what are you doing? I don't care. My cultivation and talent aren't inferior to Yun Ruoyan's at all, so why can't I go? Guan Tianyu asked. I'm your grandson, so why are you giving this opportunity to others but not me? There's no why. If I say you can't go, then you can't go. Get down. The second elder roared. Tianhai, drag him down and keep an eye on him until everyone else leaves. Rong Tianhai dragged Guan Tianyu away by force, then returned to the second elder to report the conflict that had occurred between Guan Tianyu and Yun Ruoyan's group. This child is intentionally causing trouble for others in order to obtain a slot. It's time for him to suffer a little, the second elder said. Rong Tianhai was a little surprised by the second elder's words, because the second elder's motto had always been to never suffer a loss. Guan Tianyu had only become so domineering because of the second elder's influence. This time, however, Guan Tianyu had clearly suffered a loss, and the second elder had actually said that he deserved it. This was the first time Rong Tianhai had encountered such a situation. Master, I don't understand, Rong Tianhai said. Tianhai, I've always valued you highly, but I never allowed you to participate in the expedition. Have you ever resented me like Tianyu? I did, Rong Tianhai replied truthfully. Gradually, I found out that Master felt that my cultivation wasn't high enough and was trying to protect me. In fact, I've always been working hard, hoping that one day I'd be strong enough to enter the alternate dimension and obtain treasures from Master. Tianhai, I understand your filial piety, but I hope that you can give up on the idea of going to the alternate dimension, the second elder said impolitely. Tianyu's father was a 9th-rank blade master, infinitely close to becoming a sword saint, on par with Li Mo, but he died in the alternate dimension as well. So, before you become a sword saint, don't even think about going to the alternate dimension. The second elder's words caused Rong Tianhai's forehead to break out in a cold sweat. Finally, the doubts he'd had for so long had been answered. For a long time, the senior brothers and senior sisters who went to another world rarely came back. The explanation given by the Elder Council was that the missing students obtained a treasure and went into seclusion to silently cultivate a higher cultivation method. But from the second elder's words, it seemed likely that all of them had perished in the alternate dimension. Evening finally arrived and the students on the list arrived on time to be called. Because Li Mo was the only instructor participating in the expedition, he was in charge of the training. Li Mo took out a list of names and began to call out names. Zongyang. Zongyang. Li Mo called out several times but there was no response. Master Mo, Guan Ruli suddenly said. At this time Guan Ruli suddenly said, Zongyang was injured by the ice blade so he can't participate in the training. Chapter 252. As it turned out, while Guan Tianyu and Yun Ruian were dueling in the plaza, Zongyang had been helping to evacuate the students. One of Guan Tianyu's ice blades had coincidentally struck Zongyang's back. As soon as the blade entered his flesh, it didn't leave a large wound, nor did it cause any excruciating pain. At first, Zongyang didn't think much of the injury so he didn't pay it much heed. However, 2 to 4 hours later the place where he was stabbed by the ice blade became abnormally cold. Cold air seeped into Zongyang's body through the wound, causing him to shiver. Suddenly, Zongyang couldn't even get out of bed. Guan Ruliu reported the situation to Li Mo in detail. Of the 30 spots, only 29 were left. There was still one more spot to go. Li Mo immediately sent a messenger to explain the situation to the elders and had them discuss how to allocate another slot for the Dragon King. Not long after, the 1st, 2nd, and 5th elders arrived. As for the other 3 elders, one pretended to be deaf and mute, while the other pretended to be in seclusion. As the 3 elders discussed quietly on the dais in front of the plaza, Li Mo stood by the side, waiting for the results. We're still missing one slot. So let's have one of our 3 colleges take it, the 1st elder proposed. The 5th elder lowered his head and didn't reply. At this moment he felt some regret. How could he have been so obedient? In the future he would have to learn to be more tactful like the other 3 elders. Zongyang is from the Southern College and since he can't go, we'll have to send someone from the Southern College to take his place, the 2nd elder proposed. 2nd elder, Li Mo responded coolly. Zongyang is from the Southern College, but he was injured by Guan Tianyu from the Northern College. Shouldn't the Northern College be held responsible? I'm aware of that, the 2nd elder replied nonchalantly. The 2nd elder said indifferently, 2 people from the South Courtyard were also injured and one of them is now bedridden. Aren't Shui Yifeng and Yun Ruian still standing there? Since it's a duel, it's one thing if you're not as skilled as the other, but why are you talking about taking responsibility? The 2nd elder was famous for being unreasonable, and even Li Mo couldn't reason with him. It seemed that the Southern College would have to send someone to take his place. But at this moment a figure walked into the square. He passed through the square and headed straight for the high platform. This person was none other than the person who had injured Zongyang Guan Tianyu. He had originally been grounded in the Northern College, but he had inadvertently overheard the Northern College students talking about Zongyang's injury and the selection of another student to replace him. How could Guan Tianyu let go of such an opportunity? He immediately found a way to escape and ran all the way here. Elders, please wait. Guan Tianyu called out, panting as he walked toward the platform. The gazes of the students below, the 3 elders and Li Mo were all drawn to him. Tianyu, what are you doing here? The second elder stood up and shouted at Guan Tianyu. Guan Tianyu acted as if he hadn't heard the second elder's words. Elders, I was the one who injured Zhou Xian. If there's anyone to replace him, it should be me. You brat, I've really spoiled you rotten. What are you doing here? Hurry up and go back. The second elder yelled anxiously. Guan Tianyu had already walked up to the platform and knelt down in front of the elders. Tianyu, I feel that my cultivation and experience aren't inferior to any of my fellow disciples. I should have been chosen in the first place. Guan Tianyu straightened his back, appearing unusually stubborn in the face of his grandfather's angry glare. How dare you come here to make a fool of yourself? The second elder's face was red with anger, and he reached out to pull Guan Tianyu away. Come back with me. Wait, second elder. Li Mo stepped forward, standing between the second elder and Guan Tianyu. Although Zhou Yang's cultivation isn't very high, he's still a 6th-rank blade master. For Guan Tianyu to be able to beat him until he's bedridden shows that his cultivation isn't weak at all. Li Mo's lips curled up slightly as he looked at the second elder. Since he's so eager to gain experience, why don't you give him a chance, second elder? Guan Tianyu was a little surprised to see Li Mo plead on his behalf. That's right, grandfather, since Master Mo has said so, please let me go. If you don't let me go, I'll kneel here until I die. The second elder only had this one treasure left, and he naturally couldn't bear to see him enter the den of tigers and wolves. He glared furiously at Li Mo, his eyes almost spitting fire. Guan Tianyu, the first elder finally spoke. Aren't you afraid of the dangers in the other world? Hee hee. Guan Tianyu laughed. I've been on an expedition with the 3 institutions for many years now. What haven't I encountered? Guan Tianyu declared proudly. Besides, the more dangerous the place, the more opportunities there will be. I believe that I have the ability to avoid danger and seize the opportunity. Good, you're ambitious. The 5th elder smiled. As expected of the second elder's bloodline, it seems that you really have to go to the alternate dimension. Of course. Guan Tianyu was very pleased with the 5th elder's words. He raised his head and spoke so loudly that everyone present could hear him. In that case, the first elder has no choice but to fulfill your wish. The first elder saw that Guan Tianyu was very determined, and since the training was about to begin, there was no time to reselect students. Just like that, Guan Tianyu had successfully secured an opportunity to enter the alternate dimension for himself. He excitedly walked towards the students below, and was quickly surrounded by the other 8 students of the Northern College. Senior Guan, you're too kind. From now on we'll have to rely on each other. Rong Yueshan smiled. Of course. I'll be sure to take care of all of you. Guan Tianyu laughed heartily. He was in a very good mood, having gotten what he wanted. However, when he turned around, he met Yun Ruoyan's gaze. Her gaze was cold and mocking, as if he'd done something utterly ridiculous. Yun Ruoyan's gaze only glanced at him once, but Guan Tianyu was infuriated. If not for the fact that there were still a few elders on the platform, he would have exploded on the spot. Up on the platform, the second elder was furious, but there was nothing he could do about it. His own grandson was desperately trying to get involved in this mess. In the end, all of the second elder's anger turned into helplessness. He sat down on his chair and said, First elder, 5th elder, are you trying to sever my bloodline? Second elder, I think you should be more optimistic, the 5th elder consoled. The 5th elder comforted him. Although the trial was extremely dangerous, it's not as if there were no survivors. Those who returned from the alternate dimension, including you and me, are all influential figures on the Xianxia continent. Your grandson isn't one to settle down, and he won't rest until you let him go. The second elder didn't respond to the 5th elder's words. Moreover, Master Mo is the one leading the expedition this time. If he's willing to take care of you, it'll be much safer. The 5th elder glanced at Li Mo. The second elder couldn't help but look at Li Mo, but he couldn't bring himself to ask for his help. Li Mo will do his best to take care of every student, Li Mo replied coolly. Li Mo said coolly, then cupped his fists at the first elder. Now that everyone's here, would you like to speak, elders? The first elder waved his hand. It's getting late. Let's begin the training. Li Mo cupped his fists once more and bowed to the 3 elders, then gestured to Shui Yun, Mo Yun, and the other senior students. The The four of them stepped forward and set up a teleportation array. This time we'll be entering a mid-grade alternate dimension. You may now enter, Li Mo announced. Guan Tianyu was the first to step into the trial. Rong Yueshan, Yiqianying, Pei Zio, and the rest of the Northern College's students followed closely behind. Yun Ruoyan and the others didn't rush. Only after the students from the other colleges had entered did Yun Ruoyan enter the trial with the Southern College's students, with Li Mo right behind her. Ever since they'd entered the plaza, Li Mo had intentionally avoided making eye contact with Yun Ruoyan. In a fit of pique, Yun Ruoyan ignored Li Mo as well. Although the two of them entered the teleportation array one after the other, they didn't communicate with each other. The moment Yun Ruoyan stepped into the array, she was stunned by the scene before her. Tall trees, flower buds the size of 2 human heads, and stalks of grass as thick as an arm. The other students were just as stunned as Yun Ruoyan. Is this the mid-grade trial? It's so magical. One of the students exclaimed. What's so strange about that? There are all sorts of strange creatures in the intermediate trial ground. There are even more amazing things to come. Because Guan Tianyu had been to the mid-grade trial before, he wasn't the least bit surprised. Yun Ruoyan's attention, however, was drawn to a half-opened flower. The flower was pure white, and it emanated a fragrance that Yun Ruoyan was very familiar with. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but step forward and take a sniff. It was the fragrance of peach blossoms. The fragrance of this flower was different from the fragrance of ordinary peach blossoms. It carried a sweet fragrance that made one feel relaxed and happy. It was actually the same fragrance as the peach blossom forest in the backyard of the Lin mansion. Puzzled, Yun Ruoyan took another step forward to take a closer sniff. Suddenly, the flower's color and shape changed. The pure white from before seemed to have been splashed with blood ink, instantly turning into a scarlet red. In the blink of an eye, several slimy tongue-like vines grew out of the scarlet petals and lapped at Yun Ruoyan. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. By the time Yun Ruoyan reacted, those slippery vines were already right in front of her. Yen be careful. Li Mo's voice suddenly rang out from behind Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan felt a large hand wrap around her waist, and she quickly retreated, narrowly dodging the slippery vines. Seeing this, Zhou Yifeng took out his bow and slashed at the rattan with the bowstring. Zhou Yifeng's bowstring was extremely sharp, and in an instant he cut through a section of the vine. After the vine was injured, it quickly retreated back into the flower. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, its petals retracted, and its stem shrunk back into the soil. Look! Guan Ruliu exclaimed, looking at the ground. The rest of the students followed her gaze to see that the section of vine that Zhou Yifeng had cut off was wriggling back into the soil like a snake. Chapter 253. What's that? Yun Ruoyan asked, still in Li Mo's arms. A bewitching flower. As Li Mo spoke, he stretched out his other hand, his middle finger and index finger pointing at the stem of the flower that was trying to burrow into the ground. Yun Ruoyan saw a purple flame appear on Li Mo's fingertip and shoot toward the stem. The stem was engulfed by the purple flame, and in a few moments, it was reduced to ashes. The crowd had never seen such a strange creature before, and they couldn't help but be shocked. What the hell was that? Yiqianying had been by Yun Ruoyan's side, and Pei Zio had managed to pull her away when the flower had attacked her. Yiqianying was now hiding behind Pei Zio, her face pale. That's a bewitching flower. Guan Tianyu had clearly seen this flower before. Bewitching flowers have the ability to bewitch people. Different people can smell different scents from the flower, and these scents are the ones that have left a deep impression on them or that they like the most. Senior brother Guan, since you knew about this flower's power, why didn't you warn us just now? Guan Ruliu asked coolly. She and Zhong Yang were in the same cohort, and because of Guan Tianyu, Zhong Yang couldn't participate in the trial. Although Guan Ruliu didn't say anything, her dissatisfaction with Guan Tianyu was quite obvious. You can't blame me for that, Guan Tianyu replied. The bewitching flower takes a different form every time it appears, and I can't predict its appearance. Besides, isn't Master Mo here? Guan Tianyu glanced at Li Mo. He wasn't lying, but his tone and demeanor were quite displeasing. Guan Ruliu snorted coldly and ignored him. Everyone be careful. By then Li Mo had already put Yun Ruoyan down. Now everyone follow me. Don't look or touch anything. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Mo turned and walked off in a certain direction, and the others hurriedly followed behind him. Although everyone was puzzled, no one asked. Instead, they hurriedly followed Li Mo's footsteps. Li Mo led the group through the tall forest. About an hour later, they arrived in front of a tree house. There were about 7 or 8 trees that were similar in size to each other. About 50 to 60 feet above the ground, there was a man-made wooden house. One of the trees near the edge had a gap cut in its trunk for climbing. Li Mo could have flown up on his sword, but for the sake of demonstration he nimbly climbed up the tree trunk with his hands and feet. The rest of them followed his example and entered the tree house one after another. The tree house was very large and it was more than enough to accommodate 30 people. After everyone entered the tree house, they sat together and waited for Li Mo to speak. At this time the sky was completely dark. Because they had just entered a new environment, everyone seemed very excited and not the slightest bit tired. "Are we going to rest here tonight?" a student asked in a low voice. "Don't tell me it's a mixed room?" a female student asked. "We're here to train. Do you think we're still at Kongming Academy or at home?" "This is the best we can do," Guan Tianyu replied. "That's right, aren't you from the Southern College a little too delicate?" Rong Yueshan laughed. "We might be delicate, but Miss E from the Northern College has been hiding behind someone else all this time," the female student from the Southern College retorted. The Southern College girl who had just spoken retorted, "I heard that Miss E is the concubine of the Crown Prince of the Li Kingdom. Could it be that young Master Pei is the concubine's guard?" Yi Qianying had been following behind Pei Zio like a little bird. Although the two of them hadn't acted too intimately, it still seemed unusual to outsiders. The female student from the Southern College mocked Pei Zio. As soon as Pei Zio heard this, he immediately explained, "The Crown Prince's concubine and the Peis are family friends, and we've always been as close as brother and sister. There's no need for some people to slander us." As Pei Zio spoke, he glanced at Yun Ruoyan seemingly unintentionally. Yun Ruoyan sat cross-legged in the middle of the group, looking around her, paying no attention to the bickering going on around her. She was observing her surroundings. The tree house was empty. There was nothing in it. There were no beds, no stove, and this was just a temporary place to rest for the night. "Whether or not I'm slandering you, I'm sure everyone knows." The bickering continued. "Sister," Yi Qianying finally spoke. Yi Qianying finally spoke. "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Can you speak more clearly?" The female student from the Southern College wasn't from the Li Kingdom, so she wasn't afraid of this so-called concubine. However, just as she was about to speak again, Li Mo interrupted her. "Be quiet. What I'm about to say next is very important and I'll only say it once, so listen carefully. This is the campsite that the students of the 3 institutions set up when they come here to train." Li Mo continued. "As you can see, the environment here is very different from what you've seen before. Whether it's the trees, plants, animals, or magical beasts, they're all many times larger than what we're used to." "Master Mo," Guan Ruli suddenly interrupted. "Why didn't you tell us about this place before entering? You know about that bewitching flower, right? If you'd warned us beforehand, Junior Yun wouldn't have been so easily bewitched." Guan Ruli's question mirrored everyone else's. Everyone felt that this training had been rushed, and they hadn't known anything about this place before entering. The first time they'd entered, they'd at least been given a storage pouch with a map inside. This time, however, there was nothing at all. They'd thought that with Li Mo around, there wouldn't be a need for a map, but Li Mo's next words completely shattered that naive notion. The reason why the training was rushed and didn't give you any time to prepare is because the trip to the alternate dimension in a year's time is also very rushed, Li Mo explained. Although we know that the portal will open in a year's time, we don't know exactly which day or time it will take place. Perhaps it'll open in the evening or in the middle of the night when you're sleeping soundly. In that case, you'll have to enter the alternate dimension as quickly as possible. Li Mo's inky gaze swept across the crowd before he continued, "I'm also completely unfamiliar with the alternate dimension, and from what the elders have described, it's different. From this, we can deduce that the alternate dimension we enter is different every time. As such, we must have the ability to deal with unfamiliar environments. This time we'll treat this alternate dimension as a training ground." The students nodded in agreement. Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Mo. For the first time she felt that he wasn't a prince, but an instructor at Kongming Academy. Also, this trial will be completely different from the one you fought for when you first entered the academy, Liemo continued sternly. Last time when you were fighting for a place in the academy, no one was there to stop you from fighting each other. However, this trial is primarily to temper your abilities, and there's no need for you to fight each other. Tempering oneself, improving one's cultivation, obtaining useful spirit medicines, spirit grasses, magic beast cores, and relying on one's own strength to survive is the ultimate goal of this trial. Liemo then began to divide the students into 10 groups of 3, and each group would head off in a different direction. After 7 days they would return to the academy. What surprised Yun Ruoyan was that Liemo had actually put her, Zhou Yifeng and Liemo in the same group. Yun Ruoyan wasn't surprised that Liemo would be in the same group as Liemo, but she was very surprised that Zhou Yifeng would be in the same group as him. The irreconcilable enmity between the two of them made them seem like natural enemies. Zhou Yifeng had even tried to kill Liemo before, but his attack had been deflected by Liemo's barrier of spiritual energy. Even so, according to Yun Ruoyan's understanding of Liemo, he wouldn't easily let off anyone who had tried to kill him. In Yun Ruoyan's opinion, Liemo was already giving Zhou Yifeng face by not punishing him. Liemo wouldn't use this opportunity to deal with Zhou Yifeng, would he? For some reason Yun Ruoyan suddenly had this thought, but almost as soon as it appeared she rejected it. With Liemo's abilities, dealing with Zhou Yifeng would be far too easy. In that case, was Liemo really taking care of Zhou Yifeng? That should be the case. As Yun Ruoyan thought about it, she realized that she'd really been wrong about Liemo, and that she'd been gauging a gentleman's heart with her own yardstick. Her anger towards Liemo instantly dissipated, and her gaze softened as she looked at Liemo. Liemo could sense the change in Yun Ruoyan, and he couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. Yun Ruoyan had thrown a tantrum at him for half a day because of another man, and now that tantrum had been instantly extinguished because of this man. This was something that Liemo was very displeased about. Master Mo, I'd like to be in the same group as you, Rong Yueshan suddenly spoke up. Yes, I'd like to be in the same group as Master M. Me too. After Rong Yueshan made the first move, the rest of the students began to make similar requests. Everyone knew that being in the same group as Liemo would increase their chances of survival, so they weren't satisfied with Liemo's decision to put them in the same group as Yun Ruoyan and Pei Xiao. Here's a teleportation scroll. Liemo didn't pay attention to their requests. Instead, he waved his hand lightly on the wooden floor, and a stack of scrolls appeared under his palm. As soon as the students heard that these were legendary scrolls, their eyes lit up. Chapter 254. Even Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but stare in shock at the stack of scrolls on the floor. There were at least 20 of those scrolls. Everyone knew that teleportation scrolls had long since disappeared, so how could so many of them have suddenly appeared? Are these really teleportation scrolls? Many of the students stared at the scrolls in front of them in disbelief. Yun Ruoyan picked up one of the scrolls and immediately felt a strange wave of spiritual energy emanating from it. So they really are teleportation scrolls. However, Yun Ruoyan found that while the scroll was genuine, the materials were all new, and didn't seem to be something that had been passed down from ancient times. Puzzled, Yun Ruoyan turned to look at Liemo along with everyone else. These are teleportation scrolls that the first elder and I created after a long period of research, Liemo began. I'll set up an array in the treehouse that's connected to the scrolls, so that when you're in danger, you'll have to use the scrolls to return to the treehouse immediately. But because of the time constraints, I was only able to make 27 scrolls. If you're in my group, you won't be able to obtain the scrolls. I want the scrolls. Guan Tianyu was the first to pick up a teleportation scroll. The environment here is complicated and the situation is constantly changing. Even Master Mo might not be able to take care of everything, so it's safer to have a teleportation scroll. I want a scroll too. Rong Yueshan was the second to pick up a scroll. She and Yun Ruoyan were mortal enemies, and Liemo was not only Yun Ruoyan's master, but he had also been close to her in the past. Rong Yueshan wasn't sure whether the cold-faced prince would ignore her if she were in danger, just so that he could get rid of a rival for Yun Ruoyan. Pei Xiao, Yi Qianying and Rong Yueshan all had the same thought, so they all picked up scrolls. With them taking the lead, the Northern College students also picked up scrolls. The students from the other 3 colleges also didn't think that they would receive any special attention from Li Mo, so they all picked up scrolls as well. Zhou Yifeng didn't think that Li Mo had placed him in the same group as him because he wanted to take care of him, but he also didn't think that Li Mo would use this opportunity to harm him. Li Mo had once told him to challenge him when he was strong enough. Although Zhou Yifeng hated Li Mo, he trusted that he was a man of his word. I want to see what he wants to do. With this thought in mind, Zhou Yifeng did not raise any objections to the grouping. Alright, that's settled then. It's already dark, so let's all rest for the night. Tomorrow we'll move out according to our groups, Li Mo said. The treehouse was built with 7 to 8 towering trees as the base, and was built with huge trunks and branches. The space was very large and very sturdy. After Li Mo gave the order, the 30 of them split into groups and found their own corners in the treehouse to rest. Li Mo stood in the middle of the treehouse and began to set up an array. He raised his hands and a dazzling white spiritual energy seeped out of his palms and fingers, then drifted into the air. The white spiritual energy floated in the air and landed in every corner of the treehouse according to some mysterious law. At the same time, the scrolls in the hands of the students also emitted a faint white spiritual energy. All of the students present stared intently at this transformation, their eyes full of admiration and yearning. Arrays were a rather mysterious existence on the Qinyuan continent. Legend had it that all the array masters had perished in the Great War between humans and demons 1,000 years ago. As a result, there were no arrays left on the Qinyuan continent other than Kongming Academy. After setting up the array, Li Mo found a corner to rest with Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng. Yun Ruoyan wanted to strike up a conversation with Li Mo, but with so many eyes on her, she couldn't help but avoid suspicion. As a result, the 2 of them began to meditate silently. Suddenly it was midnight. Yun Ruoyan was awoken by the sounds of wild beasts. She was about to get up to investigate when Li Mo grabbed her by the hand. They're just some useless beasts in the forest. Don't bother with them, Li Mo replied. Rest well for tomorrow's operation. Li Mo pulled Yun Ruoyan into his embrace. Yun Ruoyan fell into Li Mo's embrace. She looked around in the dark of the night, and only when she saw that the students were all sound asleep did she let out a sigh of relief, but her heart was still beating rapidly. Although she and Li Mo often acted intimately, that was only when no one else was around. Yun Ruoyan wasn't used to such intimacy in such an environment. Although Rong Yueshan, Pei Zio and Yi Qinying were far away, Zhou Yifeng wasn't far away. If someone were to find out, then the 2 of them would have avoided each other for nothing. Li Mo quickly put me down, Yun Ruoyan whispered. Shoo. Li Mo placed a finger on Yun Ruoyan's lips. Close your eyes and get some rest. As soon as Li Mo finished speaking, a low, strange sound rang out. The sound seemed to have some sort of hypnotic effect. Yun Ruoyan's eyes immediately closed and she quickly fell into a dreamless sleep. The next day when she awoke, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Yun Ruoyan found herself half lying on the wooden floor. Li Mo wasn't by her side, but Zhou Yifeng was quietly leaning against a tree trunk. Yun Ruoyan sat up. Seeing that the surrounding students were all sound asleep, she quietly crept toward the edge of the treehouse. Just as she reached the edge of the treehouse, Yun Ruoyan heard a commotion coming from below. She poked her head out of the treehouse's perimeter and focused her spiritual energy on her eyes. What she saw gave her quite a shock. On the ground beneath the treehouse, there were at least a dozen beasts lying on the ground. Each of these beasts was enormous, at least 4 or 5 times the size of the beasts on the Qinyuan continent. Although they were lying on top of each other, there was no sign of blood or intestines, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell whether they were dead or alive. You're awake. Li Mo's voice came from the side. Yun Ruoyan looked toward the direction of his voice and saw him perched on the branch of a nearby tree. Li Mo, what's going on down there? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. Are these beasts dead or alive? Li Mo didn't respond immediately. Instead he stepped into the air and a green light shone from his body as he extended a hand toward Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan looked back at the treehouse. Everyone inside was still sleeping soundly, and even the usually alert Zhou Yifeng was abnormally fast asleep. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel suspicious. Yun Ruoyan handed her hand to Li Mo, and in the blink of an eye, Li Mo brought her to the ground. Yun Ruoyan bent down to examine the beasts on the ground, then turned to Liemo. They're all alive. What's going on? Yun Ruoyan's suspicions deepened as she thought of the other students sleeping soundly in the treehouse. Suddenly she recalled the low, distant cry she'd heard the night before, when she'd been in Liemo's arms. Could it have been that cry? Before Yun Ruoyan could ask, Liemo explained, "It's the soul-stealing bird." Soul-stealing bird? This was the first time Yun Ruoyan had heard of such a name. She thought back to some of the fragmented records of magical beasts she had read before, and vaguely recalled a section on the records called the Extinct Records. The Extinct Records were records of magical beasts that had gone extinct on the Xianxia continent, and the soul-stealing bird seemed to be one of them. However, Yun Ruoyan didn't have a clear picture of what the soul-stealing bird was. When Liemo saw the confusion on Yun Ruoyan's face, he explained, "When a soul-stealing bird reaches adulthood, it can kill invisibly with its chirping, but the one from last night was clearly still a fledgling, so it could only hypnotize its victim." Oh, so they were all hypnotized, no wonder. No wonder they were all so soundly asleep. Then what's with these beasts? Yun Ruoyan asked. The wild beasts on the ground were just ordinary beasts, not magic beasts. Even if there were 2 or 3 magic beasts in the middle, their killing power was extremely weak. From this, it could be seen that they were at the edge of the forest while the terrifying magic beasts were in the depths. Last night I heard the sound of beasts roaring in the depths of the forest. I don't know what's going on, Liemo replied. We can go take a look. But before that, let's capture this soul-stealing bird first. Liemo told Yun Ruoyan that soul-stealing birds like to eat all sorts of strange flowers and plants, especially bewitching flowers. Presumably, it had been attracted by the bewitching flowers from last night. By the time they finished their conversation, the sky was already bright, but no one in the hut had moved. Liemo, on the other hand, looked delighted. Although this soul-stealing bird is still a fledgling, it's not weak at all. He struck the head of one of the smaller beasts with his spiritual energy. The wild beast suffered a blow and its eyes suddenly opened, then slowly closed again. It was as dead as could be. Liemo dragged the dead beast to one side. This one should be enough to fill everyone's stomachs. Liemo glanced at Yun Ruoyan. Liemo was in a semi-inebriated state and everything he ate depended on his mood. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, was a voracious eater. Clearly Liemo had killed this beast for her. By then the sky was even brighter and sunlight shone into the forest through the gaps between the leaves. All the beasts that came into contact with the sunlight awoke. They crawled up and looked around in confusion. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo were just standing to the side, but they didn't panic when they saw them, treating them as mere weaklings. The wild beasts shifted their confused gazes away from the two of them, and continued to move forward with their thick limbs and huge bodies. In the shadows where the sunlight didn't reach, there were still a few beasts sleeping soundly. Usually beasts that are hypnotized by a soul-stealing bird will automatically wake up after 12 hours, but the one last night was clearly much more powerful than the average one. From the looks of it, unless there's a strong light, it'll probably sleep for 2 days and 2 nights, Liemo commented. Chapter 255. Because this trial didn't have a time limit, they could cultivate for a year if they wanted to, so the two of them weren't in a rush. Liemo, I don't know why you put Shui Yifeng in the same group as us. Can you tell me? Yun Ruoyan took this opportunity to ask Liemo. Liemo was quite pleased to hear Yun Ruoyan refer to him as us, and he smiled. Yen, what do you think I'm doing? I don't know, Yun Ruoyan replied honestly. But I'm certain that you'll take care of Shui Yifeng. Liemo only smiled. I heard you say that he's quite good at barbecuing. Yen, if you like it so much, wouldn't I be in trouble if I didn't bring him along? Just because of that? Yun Ruoyan was somewhat speechless. What else do you think, Yen? Liemo smiled. Yun Ruoyan continued to be speechless. The two of them returned to the treehouse and brought all the students out under the sun, waking them up one by one. What's going on? Why are we lying here? The sun is so bright. What time is it now? The students who had just woken up were very confused when they saw themselves lying outside. The beasts beneath the treehouse can be used as food. Liemo didn't intend to explain the soul-stealing bird to the students. Everyone get ready. We can set off. Although the students were confused after hearing Liemo's words, they all went down to the treehouse, took some fresh meat, and dispersed according to the groups they had been assigned the night before. Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng toward the west. Along the way, Yun Ruoyan told Zhou Yifeng about the soul-stealing bird, but he didn't comment. Li Mo sped up, and Yun Ruoyan had to focus all her attention on keeping up with him. Li Mo, how did you know the soul-stealing bird was in this direction? Yun Ruoyan caught up to him. I don't know, Li Mo replied. Then where are you taking us? To the bewitching flower's nest, Li Mo said as he sped up once more. Zhou Yifeng was still able to keep up, but Yun Ruoyan was starting to lag behind. Zhou Yifeng reached out to pull Yun Ruoyan back, but Li Mo suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Yun Ruoyan walked up to Li Mo's side, panting. Li Mo didn't even look at her. Instead he bowed slightly and said, Come up. Huh. Come up. Oh. As soon as Yun Ruoyan climbed onto Li Mo's back, Li Mo sprinted away. Yun Ruoyan could feel the trees on either side of her and the wind whistled past her ears. She couldn't help tightening her grip on Li Mo's broad shoulders. Zhou Yifeng didn't say a word as he followed closely behind. After about 15 minutes, Li Mo finally stopped. Right here. Li Mo placed Yun Ruoyan down from his back. In front of Yun Ruoyan was a misty flower bed, and on top of the flower bed was a sea of purple and red flowers of various shapes and sizes. A gust of wind blew over, but it was filled with the refreshing and sweet fragrance of peach blossoms. Because she was already prepared, Yun Ruoyan wasn't bewitched this time. However, she felt Zhou Yifeng close his eyes and take a deep breath. At first, Yun Ruoyan was worried that Zhou Yifeng would be bewitched by the fragrance of the flowers. She wanted to warn him, but when Zhou Yifeng opened his eyes after a deep breath, Yun Ruoyan saw that his eyes were bright and clear, without the slightest hint of bewitchment. What did you smell just now? I smelled the fragrance of a leafless flower, Zhou Yifeng replied. When I was young, Mother planted a patch of it in our backyard. It's a fiery red color and it smells faintly fragrant. Zhou Yifeng closed his eyes and took another deep breath. Shoo, quiet, Li Mo suddenly called out. Then he reached out and pulled Yun Ruoyan to hide in the bushes at the side. Yun Ruoyan tugged on Zhou Yifeng's sleeve, and the three of them squatted together in the bush. Just as the three of them hid, loud footsteps could be heard from afar. At the same time, the ground began to tremble. The three of them simultaneously felt a powerful aura approaching from afar, and it was rushing towards them at an extremely fast speed. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan all held their breaths and retracted their auras. Bang, bang, bang. As the tremors grew closer, the aura grew stronger and stronger, giving Yun Ruoyan the feeling that it was even stronger than the average high-rank magical beast on the Qinyuan continent. A high-rank magical beast was equivalent to a 7th rank or 8th rank blade master, and this aura was clearly beyond that. Yun Ruoyan looked toward Li Mo, who stared intently in the direction of the tremors. Suddenly, there was a cracking sound and several large trees in the vicinity of the flower bed had been knocked down. Then a mountainous beast that looked like a wild boar charged out of the dense forest. Between the brows of the boar's head was a ball of fiery red fur. It was a fiery hog. Yun Ruoyan had never seen such a large mutated fiery hog before. The largest magical beast she had seen in the imperial family's secret territory was the saber-toothed tiger, but this inferno hog was more than twice the size of the saber-toothed tiger. Yun Ruoyan's heart was filled with shock. She silently calculated in her heart what her chances of victory would be if the three of them were to fight against this mutated fire hog, but she saw that the fire hog had already pounced into the flower bed. The moment the fiery hog charged into the flower bed, the colorful bewitching flowers retracted their flowers and leaves, quickly burying themselves into the soil. In an instant, the large flower bed had become a patch of bare ground. With a loud rumbling sound, a cloud of dust rose from the white ground. It was the raging flame hog that had pounced in. This fiery hog likes to eat rotting meat. It must have been bewitched by the bewitching flowers, Li Mo murmured. Then, as if in a frenzy, the fiery hog used its nose to dig into the white ground. It must have been attracted by the smell of rotting meat, but when it didn't see any, it knew that it had been tricked. Just as the fiery hog was about to go berserk, the white ground suddenly changed. Numerous thick sticky vines burrowed out of the ground, then fiercely stabbed at the fiery hog's body. However, the fiery hog's hide was so thick that the vines weren't able to pierce through its skin in one go. The fiery hog became even more frenzied. It opened its large mouth and bit down on one of the vines. With a fierce tug, a large clump of blood-red roots was pulled out of the ground. The fiery hog began to chomp on the roots, and the broken vines scattered in all directions as they quickly burrowed back into the soil. Just as the fiery hog was happily chewing on the roots, Yunruian saw dozens of vines burrow out of the ground around it. This time the vines didn't attack rashly. Instead they slowly crawled along the fiery hog's limbs, belly and the soft and vital parts of its body. Then, as if someone was directing the vines wrapped around the fiery hog's limbs, tightened and bound it to the ground. Only then did the fiery hog react. It howled and struggled, but the vines around its underarms and belly suddenly tightened. Yunruian saw that the fiery hog's two round eyes seemed to be about to pop out of their sockets due to the immense pain, and large droplets of saliva dripped from the corners of its mouth. The bewitching flowers clearly didn't want to give the fiery hog any chance to struggle. Numerous more vines quickly burrowed into the fiery hog's mouth, nostrils, ears, and eye sockets. The immense pain caused the fiery hog to struggle even more violently. Most likely because of its large body, its violent movements caused it to tremble uncontrollably. But this was clearly a meaningless struggle. Fresh blood began to flow out of its 7 orifices, attracting even more vines to burrow out of the ground. In a short while, the fiery hog's entire body was tightly bound by the swarm of vines. Then a large amount of green juice was secreted from the vines. A sizzling sound of corrosion could be heard, and large amounts of white foam seeped out from the gaps between the vines. At the same time, Yunruian smelled an even stronger fragrance of peach blossoms, and Zhou Yifeng smelled an even stronger fragrance of the leafless flowers. But combined with the scene in front of them, the two of them felt as if they were about to vomit. After about half a cup of tea's time, the rattan began to loosen, revealing the white bones of the raging flame hog inside. Just like that, the gigantic fiery hog had been eaten by the bewitching flowers, leaving behind only a skeleton. Yunruian couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. If she had been entangled by the vines yesterday and hadn't been able to save herself in time, she would likely have become a skeleton as well. After the vines had been eaten up, they all retracted back into the ground. Then, at a rapid pace, a patch of purple and red flowers bloomed on the white ground. However, Yunruian no longer felt that the flowers were beautiful, only terrifying and eerie. "What a frightening flower," Yunruian couldn't help exclaiming. "The seeds of the bewitching flower are the best ingredient for refining it." Xiao, who hadn't spoken for a long time, suddenly spoke up in Yunruian's mind. Xiao had once taught Yunruian how to refine a bewitching fog that could confuse people, but due to the limitations of the materials used, it could only confuse cultivators below 6th rank. If she wanted to confuse higher-ranked cultivators, she needed better ingredients, and the seeds of the bewitching flower were an excellent example. "I'm afraid it won't be easy to obtain," Yunruian replied. "Mistress, I can sense that the bewitching flower's natural predator is nearby," Xiao added. "Be careful, the soul-stealing bird is here," Liemo whispered. "Mistress, look east," Xiao reminded. Yunruian looked toward the east, only to see a large bird with silver-gray feathers, golden eyes, and a long beak flying through the branches of the trees. "Cover your ears." Liemo and Xiao's voices rang out at almost the same time. Yunruian and Zhou Yifeng immediately covered their ears, and even Liemo did the same. As soon as the three of them did so, a low, melodious chirp rang out. Chapter 256. Although Yunruian had covered her ears, she could still hear the soul-stealing bird's cries, and she couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. Liemo placed a finger on Yunruian's temple, infusing her with spiritual energy, clearing her mind. At the same time, Liemo placed a finger on Zhou Yifeng's temple, and Zhou Yifeng's hazy eyes brightened once more. Zhou Yifeng glanced sideways at Liemo, who retracted his hand. "Be careful. Don't fall for its tricks." Zhou Yifeng expressionlessly turned his gaze back to the flower beds. Above the flower beds, the soul-stealing bird circled incessantly, its low cries continuing. Liemo was almost unaffected, and both Yunruian and Zhou Yifeng were using their spiritual energy to protect their minds. The bewitching flowers in the flower beds were clearly affected. Although they had sensed danger and revealed their vines, they were now flailing about wildly, without the slightest hint of their previous composure. The soul-stealing bird was more than 3 times the size of a giant eagle, but even so, it was still very small compared to the flaming hog. The soul-stealing bird dodged the dozens of vines with great agility. Suddenly, its eyes lit up, and it dodged a few vines before stabbing at a bright red bewitching flower. The soul-stealing bird was very fast, and it quickly retrieved a red bewitching flower from its bewitching flower before quickly retreating. "That's a bewitching flower's seed," Xiao exclaimed. Yunruoyan stared at the seed in the bird's beak. As it flew, it raised its head and swallowed the bewitching flower. As for the bewitching flower that had lost its seed, it began to wilt at a rate visible to the naked eye. After eating the seed, the soul-stealing bird became extremely excited and let out another cry. This time it was even longer than the previous cry. "Mistress, be careful. Every time the bird eats a bewitching flower seed, its soul-stealing ability will increase by a fraction," Xiao reminded. Because of Xiao's reminder, Yunruoyan was able to reinforce the spiritual energy protecting her mind, but Zhou Yifeng, who was caught off guard, fell unconscious. Zhou Yifeng. Yunruoyan tried to wake him up. "It's no use. He'll sleep for at least 16 hours this time," Liemo said. While the two of them were talking, the soul-stealing bird had already eaten 2 or 3 of the bewitching flower seeds. Sure enough, with each seed it ate, the soul-stealing bird's power would increase. After 2 chirps, Yunruoyan couldn't take it anymore, but the soul-stealing bird was getting more and more excited. "Hold on a little longer," Liemo urged as he transferred spiritual energy into her body. When the soul-stealing bird ate the 7th bewitching flower seed, another change occurred. An abnormally thick rattan suddenly emerged from the center of the flower bed and swung at the soul-stealing bird. The soul-stealing bird narrowly dodged the attack, but a few of its feathers were shaved off by the rattan. Following that, behind the thick vine, a huge flower with multicolored petals drilled out. "The broodmother!" Xiao and Liemo cried out simultaneously. Even without Liemo and Xiao's explanation, Yunruoyan could tell that the broodmother was the leader of the bewitching flowers. The soul-stealing bird had destroyed 6 or 7 bewitching flowers in a row, and the leader was finally going to get angry. "Every bird that wants to mature has to eat a seed from the broodmother," Liemo explained. "I've wanted to tame an adult soul-stealing bird many times, and this time I've finally gotten my chance." The vines of the bewitching mother flower continued to chase after the soul-stealing bird. Although it looked thick and clumsy, its movements were abnormally fast. Coupled with the pincer attacks of the other soul-stealing vines, the soul-stealing bird began to panic. Stay here and protect yourself," Liemo said as he dashed toward the flower bed. At the same time, a green sword aura appeared beneath Liemo's feet, and he flew into the midst of the vines. "Liemo, be careful." When Yunruoyan saw how many vines Liemo was entangled in, she couldn't help but cry out. Liemo used the fingers of his right hand as a sword, and a dazzling white spiritual energy shimmered at his fingertips. He swung his right hand, chopping off the vines that were attacking him as if he were chopping vegetables. Then he cast a fireball with his left hand and turned the vines that he had cut into ashes in midair. Without a pincer attack, the soul-stealing bird began to fight with the broodmother, its long sharp beak pecking at the vines whenever an opportunity presented itself. The vines secreted a corrosive green liquid, but it had no effect on the soul-stealing bird's long hard beak. While the soul-stealing bird and bewitching flower were engaged in battle, Liemo had slaughtered his way to the bewitching mother flower. Yunruoyan saw Liemo stretch out his hands toward the center of the broodmother's flower. White spiritual energy seeped out of his palms, forming a white cylindrical whirlwind that burrowed into the broodmother's flower. At the same time, the vines of the broodmother sensed danger and quickly retreated toward Liemo's back. At the same time, the broodmother's petals shrank back into the soil. Liemo turned around and used a fireball technique with one hand, sending a large fireball hurtling toward the vines. At the same time, his other hand continued to use the whirlwind to plunder the broodmother's flower seeds. Yunruoyan's jaw dropped. She'd seen Liemo use a spiritual whirlwind before, and she'd also seen him use a fireball technique, but this was the first time she'd seen him use both at the same time. It was rare for most people to be able to use even one type of elemental spiritual energy, but Li Mo was able to use both at the same time. As Li Mo continued to use fireballs to keep the vines at bay, he increased the strength of his whirlwind to plunder the broodmother's flower seeds. Just as Yun Ruoyan was in shock, Li Mo slowly plucked out a multicolored pearl from the broodmother's flower and held it tightly in his hand. In an instant, both the broodmother and its vines withered, and the withering spread rapidly from the broodmother. In no time at all, the large flower bed had withered into a wasteland. Li Mo slowly raised the colorful flower seed in his hand toward the bird in the air. "Submit to me and the seed is yours," Li Mo shouted at the broodmother. The broodmother's blood-red eyes seemed to turn even redder. With a shrill caw, it charged toward Li Mo. Li Mo directed the sword beneath his feet to dodge the attack. That caw made Yun Ruoyan feel as if a needle of ice had pierced into her brain. She felt a sharp pain, and her brain felt as if it had been filled with ice water, causing her to tremble violently. Then his slightly muddled mind instantly became extremely clear. Arg! Zhou Yifeng, who had also been affected by the broodmother's caw, cried out in pain and woke up with a frown. He flipped over and stood up, but Yun Ruoyan pressed him down. "Don't move. Look over there," Yun Ruoyan said, pointing to the sky. Zhou Yifeng looked up, only to see Li Mo facing off against the giant broodmother. The broodmother knew that its caw would have no effect on Li Mo, so it chose to use a caw that would damage his brain and clear his mind. This time it wasn't Li Mo who was injured, but rather Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan. The two of them desperately covered their ears to prevent the sound from piercing their brains. In midair, Li Mo flew toward the baby soul-stealing bird, facing the sound waves head-on. When the young bird saw this, it couldn't help but jump in fright, and its cries came to an abrupt halt. In the blink of an eye, Li Mo arrived in front of the broodmother and mounted its back. At first, the broodmother struggled violently, but Li Mo would occasionally strike its eyes with spiritual energy. At first, the broodmother's eyes were as red as blood, but they slowly lost their color and turned brown. The broodmother's struggling finally slowed and it slowly landed on the ground. Li Mo jumped off the broodmother's back and Yun Ruoyan ran over excitedly. "It's done." Li Mo smiled at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan smiled like a blossoming flower as she reached out to stroke the broodmother's head. The broodmother dodged, but it suddenly let out a caw, causing both Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng to cry out in pain. The two of them clutched their heads for a long time before the pain and coldness finally subsided. "This bird's amazing." Yun Ruoyan frowned slightly, but she didn't dare to stroke it again. "Yen'er, take this." Li Mo handed the bewitching broodmother's seed to Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan looked at the seed, which was round and emitted a colorful glow. It was very cute and she reached out to take it. "If you make a bewitching potion with this, even Li Mo might fall unconscious," Chiu exclaimed in Yun Ruoyan's mind. "Yen'er, feed the seed to the soul-stealing bird," Li Mo instructed. "It'll be closer to you in the future." "All right." Yun Ruoyan turned to the broodmother. As soon as it saw the seed in Yun Ruoyan's hand, its feathers trembled in excitement. It opened its beak slightly, and it let out a series of cawing noises, as if it were whispering to one another, or as if it were a child begging for food. "In the future, be good and don't make such frightening sounds." Yun Ruoyan extended her hand, and the broodmother obediently placed its head under her palm. Yun Ruoyan patted its head lightly, and the broodmother squinted its eyes fawningly. "All right, here you go." Yun Ruoyan placed the bewitching flower seed by the soul-stealing bird's beak. The broodmother eagerly opened its mouth and sucked Yun Ruoyan's entire arm into its mouth. "Ruoyan." Zhou Yifeng, who had been standing behind Yun Ruoyan, hurriedly tried to pull her back, but Li Mo blocked him. Yun Ruoyan's arm was in the broodmother's mouth, but she didn't feel any pain. Instead, she felt the broodmother's soft tongue curl around her arm, tickling her. She loosened her grip, and the broodmother's soft tongue swallowed the seed. After swallowing the seed, the broodmother immediately let go of Yun Ruoyan's arm, raised its head and was about to caw. Yun Ruoyan covered her ears in fright, but the broodmother didn't make a sound. Instead, it leapt off the ground with both feet and soared into the sky. Yun Ruoyan looked up to see that the broodmother had broken through a corner of the tree's canopy that covered half the sky. Blinding sunlight shone in, forming a colorful pillar of light. "Li Mo," Yun Ruoyan murmured, "will it come back?" Chapter 257. After eating the bewitching flower seeds, Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but worry that it wouldn't return. Li Mo, will it come back? Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo. Before Li Mo could respond, a clear, melodious chirp came from the sky. Yun Ruoyan raised her head and saw a palm-sized shadow flying closer and closer to the multicolored pillar of light. The shadow stopped not far from Yun Ruoyan. It was a small, adorable bird with reddish-brown eyes, a long, pointed beak and silver-white feathers. What is it? Yun Ruoyan stared at Li Mo in disbelief. It's the soul-stealing bird, Li Mo replied. Once a soul-stealing bird reaches adulthood, it can take on two forms. One is larger and it's more suited for combat. How adorable! Yun Ruoyan couldn't help reaching out to the palm-sized soul-stealing bird. The soul-stealing bird obediently perched on Yun Ruoyan's palm. Is it your magical beast now? As she played with the soul-stealing bird, she turned to Li Mo and asked, Why don't I see you forming a contract with it? It's not qualified to form a contract with me, and it's only temporarily under my command. Li Mo smiled at her. Yen you fed it the seed of the bewitching brood mother flower to help it mature, and now it recognizes you as its half-master. As if in response to Li Mo's words, the soul-stealing bird cackled twice. Mistress, Xiao called out. It doesn't like you calling it a soul-stealing bird, so it wants you to give it a name. Xiao called out in Yun Ruoyan's mind. Yun Ruoyan looked at the bird in her palm and smiled. You want me to give you a name? The soul-stealing bird chirped twice in Yun Ruoyan's palm. All right. Yun Ruoyan thought for a moment, then glanced at Li Mo and smiled. I'll call you Mo, all right? No. Li Mo frowned. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The soul-stealing bird was very fond of this name, and it flew around Yun Ruoyan excitedly. From now on you'll be called Little Murphy. Little Murphy, hee hee. The girl's bell-like laughter echoed through the forest. Li Mo shook his head and sighed, a bitter smile on his lips. Yin is getting bolder and bolder. I'm afraid she'll one day climb all over my head. Zhou Yifeng stood silently to the side watching the girl play with the bird. He also looked at the slaughtering king, who had a deep grudge against him and only knew a little about him from the mouths of others. Ever since he was young he had always imagined the slaughtering king to be a demon who killed without batting an eyelid. In Zhou Yifeng's childhood nightmares, Li Mo would chop off the heads of his tribesmen one by one with a blood-stained blade, then approach him with a sinister smile. Every time Zhou Yifeng awoke from those nightmares he would be drenched in sweat. But at this moment, the murderous demon in Zhou Yifeng's mind, the one who had always been Zhou Yifeng's nightmare, was smiling helplessly at a young girl. Zhou Yifeng couldn't help feeling a little dazed. Zhou Yifeng, what are you daydreaming about? Yun Ruoyan's voice suddenly interrupted Zhou Yifeng's train of thought. Where are we going next? Zhou Yifeng asked, startled. First, let's go get some bewitching flower seeds. Yun Ruoyan began walking toward the flower bed where the bewitching flowers had once grown. Although the bewitching flowers had all withered, their seeds were still in the soil, and the three of them quickly collected quite a few seeds. Dug around in the soil, eating to its heart's content. Yun Ruoyan had heard from Xiao that every time Emma ate a bewitching flower seed, the power of its voice would increase by a fraction. Yun Ruoyan had experienced this firsthand. As she watched Emma eat its seeds she couldn't help but feel a little curious. She asked Xiao how strong it would become if it continued eating. Xiao told her that once the soul-stealing bird matured, the bewitching flower seeds would no longer have any effect on it, and Emma was only eating them out of greed. As soon as Xiao finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan heard Li Mo stop Emma. Don't be so ruthless. Li Mo turned to Yun Ruoyan. Yen, you're almost done with your collection. Leave some seeds for the bewitching flower. Yun Ruoyan saw that they had collected about 15 seeds which according to Xiao could be used to make quite a few high-grade bewitching pills. She nodded in agreement. Where are we going now? Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo the same question Zhou Yifeng had asked her. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, a rumbling sound came from her stomach. Li Mo and Zhou Yifeng both turned to look at her. Yun Ruoyan was already used to it and she didn't feel embarrassed at all. She turned to Zhou Yifeng. Let's get something to eat first. The three of them found a place with water. Zhou Yifeng started a fire, took out some fresh beast meat and smeared it with special spices. Li Mo, on the other hand, took out a small bottle of wine and sat by the side, sipping from it. Over the fire, the bright red meat slowly turned brown, and the aroma of the meat mixed with the spices grew stronger and stronger. It smells so good. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help leaning closer to Zhou Yifeng. This aroma is different from before. Zhou Yifeng, not only has your cultivation improved, but your barbecuing skills have improved as well. During this period of time, Zhou Yifeng had spent a great deal of time and effort on barbecuing in order to capture the stomach of the black-clothed man who had taught him. The spices he was currently using had been developed not long ago. The corners of Zhou Yifeng's mouth curled into a smile. Then he continued to turn the skewers in his hands to ensure that every part of the meat was evenly heated. This way the meat would be crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Li Mo here. Yun Ruoyan handed the first piece of meat that Zhou Yifeng had roasted to Li Mo somewhat fawningly. Li Mo had made her half a master of and it was only right for her to reciprocate his kindness. As a result, she had no choice but to do so. Li Mo's eyes were drooping as he drank his wine, but he didn't take it. It's really good. Try it, it's not any worse than the fish you roasted, Yun Ruoyan commented. Li Mo glanced sideways at Yun Ruoyan, who continued to smile fawningly. Li Mo stretched out 2 fingers, using spiritual energy as a knife, and sliced off a piece of meat from Yun Ruoyan's hand. He pinched it between his fingers and placed it in his mouth, but he only took a small bite. How is it? Yun Ruoyan asked expectantly, as if she were the one who had roasted the meat. Li Mo swallowed the meat in his mouth and replied coolly, not bad. He then whistled into the air and chirped in response. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of Li Mo. Li Mo fed the rest of the meat in his hand to which it swallowed in one gulp, seemingly wanting more. You're too picky. Is much easier to feed, Yun Ruoyan commented. Then one by one they shared a good piece of meat with Mo. On the other hand, Li Mo's face darkened. After a hearty meal, Yun Ruoyan wiped her mouth and asked Li Mo about their next course of action. Zhou Yifeng cupped his fists and leaned against the trunk of a large tree. His gaze wandered in a random direction, but his ears were pointed in Li Mo's direction. Both you and Zhou Yifeng need actual combat, Li Mo began. We're currently on the outskirts of the forest, so there won't be any particularly powerful magical beasts. If we want to engage in actual combat with powerful beasts, we'll have to head east into the heart of the forest. Wasn't that fire hog a high-rank magical beast? Zhou Yifeng asked. It was attracted by the bewitching flower. Now that it's been destroyed, there won't be any more high-rank magical beasts attracted by it in the short term, Li Mo replied. In that case, let's set off right away. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. The 3 of them walked quickly toward the heart of the forest for more than 2 hours. Suddenly they heard another tremor in front of them. That trembling sound was even louder than the raging flame hog's movement. Even the huge treetops of the giant tree were rattling from the trembling. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng hadn't had much experience fighting magical beasts, and they were in an alternate dimension, where the beasts were much larger than those on the Qinyuan continent. Even with Li Mo by their side, the presence of an unknown magical beast still made their faces pale. Just then Qiu told Yun Ruoyan that the beast's aura wasn't very strong, and that Yun Ruoyan didn't need to worry. As soon as Qiu finished speaking, the beast broke through several giant trees and appeared in front of the 3 of them. After a moment of hesitation, Yun Ruoyan decided that since she couldn't extract it, she would have to destroy it. As soon as Yun Ruoyan thought of this, she immediately used a fireball technique, condensing fire-attuned spiritual energy into a fireball in the palm of her hand. Then she threw the fireball at the bull's beast core. The bull's beast core looked very large, but as soon as it was struck by Yun Ruoyan's fireball, it trembled violently. A giant tree was broken by the crash of the giant cow. Before the broken branches hit the cow's head, Yun Ruoyan had already nimbly jumped from the cow's head to the trunk of another giant tree, and then found another opportunity to quickly jump back onto the cow's head. After a while the bull finally slowed down. Yun Ruoyan stood on the bull's head with one leg hooked around its horns, and she shot fireballs at the hole in the bull's head with both hands. The fist-sized hole was blasted into a huge hole. The fireball entered the hole and directly hit the bull's naiden. After a few rounds of bombardment, a crack finally appeared on the brownish-yellow inner dan, which was the size of an adult head. By the time Yun Ruoyan threw out her 8th fireball, the beast core finally shattered. Yun Ruoyan stood on the bull's head, her body tilting as the bull fell. She looked around, trying to find a place to land. Suddenly she felt her body lighten and Li Mo hugged her by the waist. Yun Ruoyan turned to the person behind her and smiled. "How's that? This little bull is still not this young lady's opponent." Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, whose forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. He shook his head. "You're still inexperienced. If you encounter a beast that's all brute strength and no thought process, there's no need to hesitate. Just attack its beast core directly." By this time Zhou Yifeng had also rushed over. When he saw the bull lying on the ground, he couldn't help but click his tongue. It really was too big. "Zhou Yifeng, let's see if you can refine those bull horns into arrowheads." Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo descended from midair. Yun Ruoyan walked over to Zhou Yifeng's side. The bull's beast core had been destroyed and it was no longer breathing. However, its eyes were wide open, reflecting Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng's silhouettes. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but step forward and touch the bull's eyeball. It felt smooth and comfortable to the touch. "Mistress, there's a membrane on the bull's eyeball. You can remove it and it might prove useful in the future," Qiu suggested. "All right." Yun Ruoyan took out her dark steel dagger and used the tip of the dagger to make a small incision around the bull's eyeball. Then she gently removed a transparent membrane from the bull's eye. "It's beautiful." Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but exclaim at the translucent film in her hand. "It's indeed very beautiful." Li Mo had appeared behind Yun Ruoyan at some point. Bringing Zhou Yifeng with him was like bringing along a top-notch chef who didn't need money, and they could live comfortably wherever they went. This time, however, Li Mo didn't eat a single bite. Instead, he drank his wine in silence. After dinner, because Li Mo said that there would be bugs and snakes in the forest at night, and that they might even encounter a herd of beasts, the three of them decided to find a high vantage point to rest. I'll take you to a good place." Li Mo leaped onto his sword and soared into the sky with Yun Ruoyan in tow. "Li Mo, where are you taking me?" Yun Ruoyan waved at Zhou Yifeng, who was still on the ground. Zhou Yifeng quietly watched as the two of them flew higher and higher until they disappeared into the dense canopy of the forest. Zhou Yifeng casually jumped onto a branch of a giant tree, hugged his bough and closed his eyes as he leaned against the branch. Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan all the way up through the layers of leaves and branches, finally arriving at the top of the forest. Above them, the moonlight shone on the endless canopy of trees, making it look like a boundless grassland, or the vast ocean that Yun Ruoyan had only heard of from others. Yun Ruoyan felt the stifling feeling of being in the forest dissipate in an instant. A gust of wind blew past, causing the leaves to rustle and ripples to form beneath their feet. Yun Ruoyan opened her arms wide and shouted, but in the end, all she did was take a deep breath. In this unfamiliar environment, even with Li Mo by her side, Yun Ruoyan couldn't completely relax. "It really is beautiful here," Yun Ruoyan breathed in the cool air. Yun Ruoyan took a deep breath of the chilly air. "But you're not intending to spend the entire night with me, are you?" Li Mo smiled. "Follow me and I guarantee that you'll be able to eat and sleep soundly." Chapter 259. The two of them stared at the night sky for a while, breathing in the fresh air, before Li Mo brought Yun Ruoyan to find a place to rest. And then, "You're not planning to let me sleep here, are you?" Yun Ruoyan stared at the object in front of her in surprise. It was a large bird's nest in the middle of a large tree. "What, you don't like it?" Li Mo dispelled the green light beneath his feet and brought Yun Ruoyan into the nest. "No, not at all." Yun Ruoyan waved her hands and smiled. It's just too surprising. This nest is way too big." Yun Ruoyan estimated that the nest was more than 3 meters wide, and because it was circular it was even larger. She really didn't know how big a bird would need such a large nest. Like a child, Yun Ruoyan hopped up and down on the nest, the soft twigs very bouncy. "This is the nest of a night owl. It sleeps during the day and is active at night, so we'll use its nest to rest for the night," Li Mo explained. "Night owl? Yun Ruoyan said worriedly. The name sounds really powerful. Will it suddenly come back at night when we're asleep? No, it won't. No, it won't. Li Mo had already laid down in the nest. Even if it does come back, I won't be afraid. Is that so? Yun Ruoyan hugged her knees as she sat down by Li Mo's side. Are you saying that you won't sleep and that you'll be keeping watch for me all night? There's someone keeping watch, but it won't be me, Li Mo replied. He whistled and the bird's cry echoed in the distance. Oh, I almost forgot about Emoer, Yun Ruoyan laughed. Emoer's low cry had knocked out a dozen wild beasts, so what was there to fear from a single night owl? Not long after, a silver-feathered Xiao Mo flew over from afar and stopped at the edge of the nest, his beady eyes blinking as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan hadn't seen Mo for the entire afternoon, and now that she saw it she couldn't help but reach out to play with it. Where did you go? I slaughtered a giant bull this afternoon and Zhou Yifeng roasted its tongue tonight. It was so delicious that I almost swallowed my own tongue. It's a pity that you weren't around. Xiao Mo's mouth twitched. Yun Ruoyan rubbed her finger against his beak. Clearly able to understand Yun Ruoyan's words, Mo hopped around the edge of the nest, looking very regretful. Don't tease this stupid bird anymore. Li Mo sat up and leaned against the edge of the nest, as lazy as Yun Ruoyan had ever seen him. His long black hair was combed behind his back, revealing his jade-like face. There was a smile at the corner of his mouth as he took out a small wine pot and sipped on it. Li Mo wasn't drunk, but his long, slender eyes were subconsciously tinged with alcohol. Yun Ruoyan stared at Li Mo in a daze for a moment before Mo's protesting chirps snapped her out of her reverie. All right, Yun Ruoyan replied. I'm half your master after all. Why wouldn't I leave something delicious for you? As Yun Ruoyan spoke, she took out a bag of ox tongue wrapped in leaves and fed it piece by piece to Mo. After feeding it a whole bag, Mo let out a loud burp, causing Yun Ruoyan to giggle. Li Mo's long arms wrapped around the girl's waist, pulling her into his embrace. Yun Ruoyan didn't resist until Li Mo pressed her under his body and started kissing her forehead, the tip of her nose and the corner of her mouth, all the way to her neck. Li Mo, you promised me that before I turn marriageable, Yun Ruoyan panted. After this year I'll turn marriageable next year. Li Mo continued kissing her. During this training I'll make sure you become an 8th rank blade master, and before we enter the alternate dimension I'll marry you. I really can't wait. Although Li Mo said this, he still stopped in the end. Even though his desire for Yun Ruoyan had reached its peak, he still had to wait. Li Mo was currently a peak 9th rank blade master. As long as Yun Ruoyan's cultivation reached the peak of 8th rank, Li Mo would be able to mate with her. By then Yun Ruoyan's body would be able to help him break through the bottleneck of 9th rank and become a sword saint. By then he would be able to bring Yun Ruoyan into the alternate dimension, and their chances of returning safely would greatly increase. As a result, during this training Yun Ruoyan's cultivation was of the utmost importance. I've heard that if you can't increase your cultivation through the training, you can eat a spiritual pill that can, Yun Ruoyan replied. That's just pulling a seedling up to help it grow, and it'll only be detrimental to your cultivation in the future. I won't let you eat that, Li Mo replied. Do you know why I chose this forest? I don't know, Yun Ruoyan replied curiously. Is there another reason? Of course. Yun Ruoyan nodded. Is there another reason? Of course. More than a year ago I brought a group of students here for training. At that time I discovered a heavenly spirit fruit in the center of the forest. However, it wasn't ripe at the time and there were quite a few high-rank beasts guarding it, so I didn't dare to act rashly. However, I've calculated the time well and the heavenly spirit fruit will ripen this month. When the time comes I'll bring it for you so that your cultivation won't improve. The heavenly spirit fruit. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help exclaiming. Is that the legendary spiritual fruit that can help a cultivator break through any bottleneck? Yes, that's the one, Li Mo replied. However, legends are usually inaccurate. The heavenly spirit fruit can indeed help a cultivator break through bottlenecks, but it's not very effective for 9th rank cultivators to reach the peak of 9th rank. Another condition is that the cultivator must have a certain level of foundation in cultivation. For those without any spiritual energy at all, it's also ineffective. So there must be many ninth-rank magical beasts guarding the heavenly spirit fruit. They're also waiting for the fruit to ripen, aren't they? Yun Ruoyan asked. Don't worry, Yen. I'm more than capable of dealing with a few ninth-rank beasts, Liemo replied nonchalantly. However, Yun Ruoyan knew that it wouldn't be easy to deal with ninth-rank beasts in this forest of giant trees. She had to expend a lot of energy and spiritual energy to deal with the ox-headed beast, which was only 6th rank. Yun Ruoyan didn't even dare to imagine how big a 9th-rank beast would be. Yen, don't worry about me. Don't I have that stupid bird to help me? Li Emo whispered into Yun Ruoyan's ear. Yun Ruoyan looked toward the edge of the bird's nest. At some point Xiao Emo had buried his head in his wings and fallen asleep. Yun Ruoyan, exhausted from a long day of running around, fell into a deep, dreamless sleep in Li Mo's arms. In her dreams Yun Ruoyan could vaguely hear a rumbling sound. She frowned and opened her eyes. The rumbling came from below. Yun Ruoyan wanted to get up, but Li Emo hugged her tightly. It's just a herd of beasts passing by. Don't worry, go back to sleep. Yun Ruoyan turned around and saw pulling its head out from under its wings. Its long, sharp beak opened wide, and it yawned loudly before burying its head back into its nest. Yun Ruoyan let out a light breath, relaxed and snuggled back into Li Mo's embrace. Li Emo tightened his grip on Yun Ruoyan's waist. Yen, you don't have to be so vigilant around me. Yun Ruoyan closed her eyes and snuggled deeper into Li Mo's embrace. Drowsiness washed over her once more and she drifted off to sleep once more. In her dreams Yun Ruoyan floated into a secluded valley. Where am I? Yun Ruoyan stood by a lake in the valley and looked around. She was surrounded by green mountains and clear waters, birds chirping and the fragrance of flowers. You may. A clear male voice suddenly called out from afar. Yun Ruoyan turned in the direction of the voice. On a small path in the valley, a man dressed in coarse hemp clothes was striding toward her. The man was tall and slender, with a head of jet black hair tied neatly behind his head with a hemp rope. He had a handsome face, sword-like eyebrows and a pair of sharp bright eyes. He walked toward Yun Ruoyan with a warm smile on his face. You may. Yun Ruoyan repeated the name that the man had just called out. How do you know my mother's name? Who are you? The man ignored Yun Ruoyan's presence and walked right past her. Yun Ruoyan hurriedly turned back to ask. Hey, who the hell are you? As soon as she asked the question, Yun Ruoyan noticed that a thatched hut had appeared by the lake not far behind her. The man called out, You may, I'm back. I've hunted a wild pheasant today and I'll cook some soup for you later. As he walked toward the thatched hut, Yun Ruoyan's heart began to pound. Yun Ruoyan's heart suddenly began to pound and she hurried to catch up to him. Just as the man approached the hut, the door suddenly opened and a woman dressed like a village woman walked out of the hut. The woman wore a linen headscarf which was commonly worn by peasant women. She wore a coarse cloth dress and an apron was tied around her waist. Under the apron he had a pot-bellied posture. Even though she was dressed like a village woman, Yun Ruoyan still recognized her as her mother, Lin Yueme. Yun Ruoyan stopped walking and looked at the man and woman chatting and laughing. Longyin, you're so hot, come wipe your sweat. Lin Yueme took out a handkerchief from her waist and wiped the sweat off the man's forehead. Yueme, look. The man showed the pheasant to Lin Yue. I'll go clean it up and make some soup for you tonight. It'll be good for you and my good Yen, Longyin said as he carried the pheasant to the lakeside and began to clean it up. Lin Yueme stood behind him and smiled. How do you know it's going to be a girl? If it's going to be a boy, I'm sure he wouldn't want a name as feminine as Yen. Yueme, I won't be wrong. Our child will definitely be as pretty as you. She'll definitely like the name I'll give her, Long Yen. Long Yen, that's a really nice name. Lin Yueme smiled happily. Long Yen, Long Yen, Long Yen. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help repeating the name. Yen, wake up, Yen. Li Mo's voice rang out by Yun Ruoyan's ear. Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes and Li Mo's face appeared in front of her. Chapter 260. Yen, what's wrong? Did you have a dream? Li Mo frowned as he looked at Yun Ruoyan's teary eyes. Yes, I had a dream. Yun Ruoyan sat up with Li Mo's support. What did you dream of? Li Mo's heart ached for Yun Ruoyan. This was the first time he'd seen her cry since they'd met. Yun Ruoyan shook her head, not answering Li Mo's question. Instead, she closed her eyes and tried to recall the scene in her dream. However, she suddenly realized that she couldn't remember what the man called Longyin looked like. Everything in her dream was abnormally clear in her mind. The man's attire, the pheasant he carried in his hand. Ling Yueme's pot-bellied, smiling face, the green mountains, the clear waters, the bird song and the fragrance of flowers. But strangely, Yun Ruoyan couldn't remember what the man looked like. I can't remember. Yun Ruoyan buried her face in her knees and clutched her head in pain. Yen, don't think about it if you can't remember. Li Mo patted Yun Ruoyan's back comfortingly. It's just a dream. It's fine if you forget. After a while, Yun Ruoyan finally lifted her head from her knees. When she looked at Li Mo again, her eyes were clear and bright. However, she didn't know if Li Mo could see through the layers of fog behind her eyes. By then, the sky was already bright and Zhou Yifeng was most likely waiting for the two of them below. The two of them tidied up their clothes and prepared to meet up with him. Similarly, Yun Ruoyan had slept in the bird's nest for a night. Li Mo's hair and robes were neat and tidy, but she herself was in a sorry state. After rushing all day and battling with the giant bull, her white uniform was a little disheveled. If possible, Yun Ruoyan really wanted to find a place to clean herself up. Just then, a clear and melodious chirp could be heard from below. Although she couldn't understand what Immerse was saying, she could sense the flattery in its voice. Li Mo shook his head and frowned. What a greedy bird. Only when the two of them descended from the forest did Yun Ruoyan realize why Xiao Mo was calling her so obsequiously. Zhou Yifeng had already set up the fire. He had also sliced up the ox tongue and skewered it on the edge of the fire. Zhou Yifeng turned back to greet Yun Ruoyan, then continued to sprinkle powder on the ox tongue. The fragrance of the spices began to spread. Xiao Mo flapped its wings and circled around Zhou Yifeng, chirping again. What a gluttonous bird. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but smile when she saw Mo's impatient expression. During breakfast, Yun Ruoyan recalled the rumbling that had occurred in the night and asked Zhou Yifeng about it. According to Zhou Yifeng, in the middle of the night, a large group of beasts had suddenly appeared in the direction of the forest. Those beasts were all quite large. However, based on their auras, Zhou Yifeng guessed that most of them were low-rank beasts, and their cultivation was probably lower than that of the giant ox. After breakfast, the three of them continued deeper into the forest. Along the way, they frequently encountered beasts, but most of them were low-rank beasts. Instead of restraining their auras, the three of them released their auras so that the low-rank beasts would avoid them. Some of the stronger beasts would occasionally provoke the three of them, but they were all killed by Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan without needing Li Mo's help. However, although these low-rank beasts didn't have a high cultivation, they were unusually large, and killing them took a lot of Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng's energy and spiritual energy. As a result, the three of them slowed down to a certain extent. After killing 3 or 4 low-rank beasts and obtaining a fire-attuned beast core, a wood-attuned beast core and 2 wind-attuned beast cores, Li Mo decided to restrain his aura and speed up their journey. Because they had expended so much spiritual energy and stamina, the three of them found a place to rest in the evening. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng meditated to gather the spiritual energy in their spiritual vortex, while Li Mo stood guard over them. Ever since she had become a peak 7th rank blade master, Yun Ruoyan's spiritual vortex had more than doubled in size. Her spiritual sea was now divided into 2 parts. 2/3 of it was ordinary white spiritual power, and the remaining 1/3 was directly transformed into red fire elemental spiritual power. Yun Ruoyan channeled the spiritual energy from the heavens and the earth into her body, gathered it in her dantian, and then converted some of it into fire-attuned spiritual energy. Finally, she slowly opened her eyes. Her surroundings had once more fallen into darkness. By her side, Zhou Yifeng was still meditating. Yun Ruoyan lifted her left hand and saw a string of ordinary-looking wooden beads next to a simple silver bracelet. Yun Ruoyan had learned from Qiuqiu that this seemingly ordinary wooden bead was actually a precious qilin bracelet, which could help its wearer convert fire-attuned spiritual energy into fire-attuned spiritual energy. Yun Ruoyan's success in converting fire-attuned spiritual energy was all thanks to the qilin bracelet. Yun Ruoyan gently caressed the bracelet, feeling its warmth. She couldn't help but turn her gaze toward Li Mo's back. She couldn't help but think back to the first time she had met Li Mo. At that time, Yun Ruoyan had still been an ugly girl, unloved by her father and unloved by her grandmother. All she had was a venomous body and a reborn soul filled with hatred. But now she had a sister, a friend, and a man who treated her with sincerity. Even though Yun Ruoyan's heart was still a mess, even though she wasn't in a comfortable environment, she still felt a sudden sense of peace and happiness. At this moment, Yun Ruoyan still felt a sudden sense of calm and a faint sense of joy. As if sensing Yun Ruoyan's gaze, Liemo turned to look at her. Yen, how's your cultivation going? Liemo asked. I've fully recovered and I can kill 2 more beasts in a row. Yun Ruoyan smiled. At this moment, a cry for help suddenly came from not far away. Is anyone there? Help. Both Liemo and Yun Ruoyan frowned slightly. The person calling for help was none other than Guan Ruliu. At the time, Guan Ruliu had teamed up with 2 other students from the Southern College. Both of them were peak 6th rank blade masters, and Guan Ruliu herself was a peak 7th rank blade master. She had begun training in spiritual energy a year earlier, and her combat prowess far exceeded Yun Ruoyan's and Li Mo's. Based on the trio's combat ability, as long as they didn't enter the heart of the forest, they shouldn't be in much danger. She must have encountered something that caused her to call for help. Who's calling for help? Zhou Yifeng had also woken up by then. It's senior sister Guan, let's go take a look. Yun Ruoyan stood up and the 3 of them rushed in the direction of the voice. Less than half a kilometer away, the 3 of them arrived in an area filled with miasma. Liemo immediately told Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan to hold their breaths. Because of their spiritual vortices, the 3 of them could hold their breaths for a certain period of time. This miasma doesn't seem naturally formed, Zhou Yifeng commented. Rather, it seems man-made. Zhou Yifeng had been in and out of the forest since he was a child and he was quite familiar with miasma. He knew that any miasma would be poisonous. However, natural miasma would carry with it a certain amount of water vapor that would evaporate from the ground, and the miasma surrounding the 3 of them was very dry. It really is man-made. Everyone be careful, Yun Ruoyan whispered. Someone's looking for trouble. Liemo didn't make a sound but his brows were furrowed. He had already warned all the students that the purpose of this trial was to increase their cultivation and accumulate combat experience, and that they weren't to attack the other students. He had split the students into groups of 3, and tried his best to avoid putting those who were at odds with each other in the same group. This was because he was worried that having too many people in a group would lead to conflict, and that existing conflicts would escalate into a fight. Who would have thought that there would still be people who dared to disobey the precepts? They must be courting death. Senior sister Guan, where are you? Yun Ruoyan called out to her surroundings. Yun Ruoyan, I'm here. Come and save us. Guan Ruliu's voice rang out once more, weak and devoid of spiritual energy. We're coming, Yun Ruoyan hurriedly replied. Together with Zhou Yifeng and Liemo, she walked toward the area where the miasma was the thickest. After passing through the layers of miasma, Yun Ruoyan finally saw Guan Ruliu. At the moment she was suspended in midair by a large patch of coiled vines. It was already nighttime and the coiled vines were black as ink. They were stacked on top of each other, intertwining with each other. It was a particularly eerie and terrifying sight. Senior sister Guan, are you all right? Yun Ruoyan hurriedly asked. She wanted to walk closer, but she found that she was completely covered in vines, and there wasn't a single place for her to step. Zhou Yifeng also drew his bow, but he didn't dare to act rashly because he didn't know what was going on. I'm fine, Guan Ruliu replied weakly. But my 2 juniors have been swallowed by the vines. Yun Ruoyan looked at the vines all over the ground, but she couldn't see a single person. The 2 juniors were both students of the Southern College and they were on good terms with Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan was quite worried about their safety. Yun Ruoyan turned to look at Liemo. What do we do now? Stay here and don't move, Liemo instructed. Then a green light rose from his feet as he flew toward Guan Ruliu. Liemo stretched out 2 fingers, and white spiritual energy gathered at his fingertips. With a flash of white light, the vines broke and Guan Ruliu landed in Liemo's arms. Master Mo, the pale-faced Guan Ruliu finally relaxed a little in front of Liemo. But just as Guan Ruliu was about to relax, something unexpected happened. Liemo, be careful. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. Behind Liemo, beneath his feet to his sides, and even above his head, countless vines had raised their heads and were glaring at Li Mo, as if countless venomous snakes were sticking out their tongues, ready to pounce on Li Mo at any moment. Yun Ruoyan didn't rush toward the ball of wild vines on a whim. As she ran, she observed her surroundings, searching for any traces of her true form. Suddenly she saw a huge tree about 4 to 5 feet behind the ball of wild vines. That huge tree was completely wrapped in wild vines. At the roots of the tree, several extremely thick and sturdy wild vines slithered about like giant pythons. As Yun Ruoyan dealt with the vines that were attacking her with fireballs, her gaze followed the python-like vines all the way down until she finally discovered where they were growing. It was a patch of damp soil from which the thick vines had sprouted. At first the area had been covered by the stacked vines, but now that most of the vines had gathered around the ball of wild vines, the area where the vines were growing was exposed. Yun Ruoyan repeatedly used fireballs to repel the vines around her, then pulled out her dark steel dagger and leaped toward where the vines were growing. Yun Ruoyan could see that the thick vines were all branches of a single main vine, and that the main vine was as thick as 2 pythons. It had emerged from the wetlands and it was as thick as 2 large pythons. Yun Ruoyan swung her dagger at the main vine, but what she didn't expect was that the main vine was not only thick, but also incredibly hard. Even though her dark steel dagger could cut through metal like it was mud, it only managed to leave a shallow cut on the vine. Yun Ruoyan looked at the ball of vines that was now the size of a house, but Li Mo didn't react in the slightest. Li Mo was intentionally releasing spiritual energy from his body, hoping to draw all the vines toward him so that he could kill them all in one fell swoop. Yun Ruoyan didn't know any of this, but she was more nervous and afraid than she had ever been before. As she screamed Li Mo's name, she slashed at the vines with her dagger. Once, twice, thrice. Yun Ruoyan didn't even notice that the vines were slowly wrapping around her own body. When Li Mo heard Yun Ruoyan's screams, he wanted to end the battle quickly, so he began to release all his spiritual energy. Attracted by the spiritual energy, the vines began to give up on attacking Zhou Yifeng, and even the vines that had wrapped around Yun Ruoyan retreated. In an instant, apart from the main vine that had grown out of the wetlands, almost all of the vine's branches rushed toward the ball of vines. The sphere became even bigger and was still growing. Countless vines were twisting around it, making it look quite terrifying. Yun Ruoyan was still slashing at the main vine with her dark steel dagger. Without the vines attacking her, Zhou Yifeng had a chance to run to her side. Zhou Yifeng used his bowstring to chop at the vine's trunk, but even the sharpest bowstring didn't have any effect. Moreover, Zhou Yifeng could see that the ball of vines was still growing in size, and it was already closing in on the two of them. Ruoyan, it's dangerous here. Zhou Yifeng reached out to grab Yun Ruoyan. Let's get out of here. Yun Ruoyan didn't seem to hear Zhou Yifeng's words, and she continued to stare at the vine's trunk. Ruoyan, let's get out of here. Zhou Yifeng grabbed Yun Ruoyan's hand anxiously. Don't pull me. Yun Ruoyan yelled at Zhou Yifeng. Don't pull me. I want to save Li Mo, I want to save him. The slaughtering king's so strong he'll be fine. Zhou Yifeng grabbed Yun Ruoyan by the waist and forcefully dragged her away. Let go of me, Zhou Yifeng, let go of me. Yun Ruoyan shouted. As soon as the two of them left the nest of vines, the indescribably large ball of vines began to change. Li Mo had begun to attack. Inside the ball of vines, he heard Yun Ruoyan's screams and decided not to wait any longer. Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan saw that the ball of vines seemed to have been propped up by something, and it suddenly began to distort its original shape. Zhou Yifeng stopped and put Yun Ruoyan down, and the two of them stared at the ball of vines. As the ball of vines grew larger and larger, the vines wrapped around it seemed to have gone berserk, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they tried to escape. With a loud bang, the ball of vines finally exploded, sending vines flying in all directions. Zhou Yifeng helped Yun Ruoyan block the incoming vines with his bow. Yun Ruoyan finally saw Li Mo standing in the middle of the ball of vines. Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan called out to him. Li Mo only had time to nod at Yun Ruoyan. Suddenly, there was a loud shriek as the vine's main body was jolted out of the ground by a violent tremor. The three of them looked in that direction and saw that the thick vine was actually connected to a humanoid monster. A vine demon. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone on the Qinyuan continent knew that demons were many times more powerful than spirits. The vine demon in front of them was covered in wet soil, and its head was still attached to the thick vine. It had a head, an upper body and 2 arms, but its lower body was connected to countless vines. It was clearly a half-demon that hadn't fully matured yet. The vine demon's eyes, like 2 black holes, scanned Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng's bodies, then landed on Zhou Yifeng. Zhou Yifeng's eyes flashed and the vine demon trembled in fear. It then dove back into the wetlands trying to escape. However, Li Mo yanked on the vine that was attached to the vine demon's head, and it howled once more as it was dragged back to the ground. Trying to escape? Li Mo tightened his grip on the vine demon's head. Die. Seeing the killing intent in Li Mo's eyes, the vine demon waved its hand and cut off the vine on its head, escaping Li Mo's control. As soon as it landed on the ground, it burrowed into the wet soil like an earthworm. You're courting death. Li Mo roared again as he appeared above the vine demon on his sword. The vine demon's movements were also very fast. By the time Li Mo arrived, the last of its vines had already sunk into the ground. Upon seeing this, Li Mo leaped down from the sword. This time the sword didn't disappear but hovered properly in mid-air. Li Mo stood on the wetlands, where the vine half-demon had burrowed its way into. He pointed a finger at the azure sword, and it let out a shrill cry as it dove into the wetlands in response to Li Mo's finger. Immediately afterwards the ground shook and the vine half-monster let out a muffled shriek. Li Mo directed the sword to burrow out of the ground, which pierced through the vine demon's body and brought it out of the wetlands. Li Mo put away the sword and the vine demon landed on the ground, trembling as it begged for its life. Li Mo didn't hesitate to release a fireball technique. A giant fireball engulfed the vine demon, and in a few moments the vine demon was reduced to ashes. Yun Ruoyan stood behind Zhou Yifeng, seemingly unable to react. Yen Li Mo turned to Yun Ruoyan and smiled as he extended a hand. Only then did Yun Ruoyan recover from her shock. Li Mo, are you all right? Yun Ruoyan walked up to Li Mo and looked up at him. Yen Li Mo caressed Yun Ruoyan's cheek and smiled. How could anything happen to me? It's just that this half-demon is far too cunning. If I didn't show it a little weakness, it would have escaped immediately. Li Mo handed Yun Ruoyan a quintessence elixir which Yun Ruoyan fed to Guan Ruliu. With Yun Ruoyan's help, Guan Ruliu was able to stand up. By this time the sky was completely dark. Because of the 3 injured students, Yun Ruoyan and her companions couldn't go to higher ground to rest. They could only find a more secluded place to rest. After settling the 3 injured students down, Zhou Yifeng started a fire. After a short rest, Guan Ruliu's pale face regained some color. Yun Ruoyan handed her some roasted meat and she forced herself to eat it all. Senior Sister Guan, how did you end up in the vine spirit's nest? Yun Ruoyan asked. Although I don't have any evidence, I'm certain that Rong Yueshan and the others were the culprits, Guan Ruliu suddenly declared angrily. Rong Yueshan, Yi Qianying, Pei Zio, Guan Tianyu, and 2 other students from the Northern College have formed a team. Indeed, they're all birds of the same feather, Yun Ruoyan muttered angrily. As soon as she had discovered the miasma, she had suspected that it was the culprit. But she couldn't think of a motive for these people to harm Guan Ruliu at the moment. How can you be certain that Rong Yueshan and the others were the culprits? Li Mo countered. As the leader of this trial and the instructor of Kongming Academy, he needed concrete evidence. Yesterday we encountered them on the road. I didn't want to get involved with them, so I took a different path with my 2 juniors, Guan Ruliu began. But in the middle of the night I suddenly heard the voices of a man and a woman talking. When I woke up I found that I was surrounded by miasma. Although she hadn't seen them, the voices sounded like Rong Yueshan and Guan Tianyu. Yun Ruoyan frowned slightly. Did you hear what Rong Yueshan said? Guan Ruliu thought for a moment. I think I heard them say that they wanted to use us to harm someone, but I didn't hear who exactly. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng exchanged a glance, both of them having a rough idea of what was going on. Rong Yueshan, Guan Tianyu, Yi Qianying and Pei Zio. There was no one else they wanted to harm other than Yun Ruoyan. When I woke up I found that the miasma surrounding me was poisonous, and I'd already breathed in some of it in my sleep. Fortunately, my cultivation is relatively high. Even if I breathed in some of the poisonous gas, I could still move. However, the two junior brothers immediately fell unconscious. Guan Ruliu glanced at the two students from the Southern College who had woken up after being rescued, and Yun Ruoyan had fed each of them a life quintessence pill. Although their lives were no longer in danger according to Li Mo, it was likely that the cultivation they had accumulated over the years would be at risk. Because they were so weak, they had both fallen asleep. I wanted to bring my two juniors out of the miasma, so I headed toward the area where it was thinner, Guan Ruliu continued. As a result, we unknowingly entered the wild vine demon's lair. As soon as the wild vines touched our bodies, they began to absorb the spiritual energy in our bodies. We didn't have the ability to resist. My two juniors were swallowed whole and I was hung upside down for a day and a night. Just when I thought I was going to die, you guys finally showed up. Guan Ruliu's heart was still pounding. Yun Ruoyan reached out to hold her hand and comforted her. Senior Sister Guan, we're fine now. In the darkness of the night, 6 dark figures darted through the forest. When they reached the miasma, the 4 of them stopped. Sister Yi, let's get rid of the miasma, Rong Yueshan called out to Yi Qianying. These 6 people were none other than Yi Qianying, Rong Yueshan, Pei Zio, Guan Tianyu, and a male and female student from the Northern College. The lanky male student was called Song Yi, and the beady-eyed female student was called Sun Yen. All right, Yi Qianying replied Yi Qianying. After that, she took out some medicinal powder from her pouch. She then turned to Song Yi and Lin Feng and said, Song fellow disciple, Sun fellow disciple, please help me. The two of them nodded and said, no problem. Song Yi flicked the packet of medicinal powder in Yi Qianying's hands, and a spark flew from his fingertip into the powder. The powder didn't ignite upon meeting the spark. Instead, a white, odorless smoke rose. Sun Yen extended her fair and slender jade-like hands, and lightly fanned the smoke coming out of the powder. A gentle breeze rose from her palms, bringing the smoke into the miasma. When the miasma met the white, odorless smoke, the two sides converged and disappeared. When the miasma completely disappeared, the 6 of them quickly made their way back to the wild vine nest. When they saw the withered vines in front of them, they weren't surprised. Third uncle was right. This half-demon really isn't a match for the slaughtering king, Rong Yueshan said. The third uncle she was referring to was Rong Tianhai. Master Rong said that Master Mo's already a peak 9th rank blade master, and is infinitely close to becoming a sword saint, Guan Tianyu explained. The vine half-demon is only a peak 8th rank blade master, and its body is extremely fragile. Once it's caught, it won't be able to fight back. Master Mo is ruthless. As soon as he catches the vine half-demon, he'll definitely kill it. Because of the presence of the miasma, he'll definitely leave as soon as he saves the victim. Yi Qianying continued, Master Rong's foresight is truly divine. Guan Tianyu laughed. Because he was in such a hurry to save the victim and killed the vine half-demon, there's no way he'll find anything left behind. Let's look around. As soon as Guan Tianyu finished speaking, the 6 of them began to comb through the area. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Pei Zio found the place where the half-demon's main body was hiding. Pei Zio pushed aside the thick, withered vines and saw that the wetland below was glowing with a faint green light. Here it is. Pei Zio called out and the other 5 quickly surrounded him. This is it, Rong Yueshan said. Under the illumination of the green fluorescent light, the faces of the 6 people present all lit up. Be careful, don't scare it and don't let it escape, Guan Tianyu said carefully, crouching down. Then the 6 of them formed a circle around the fluorescent wetland and all of them bent down. Guan Tianyu gestured to the other 5, and they all held their breaths as they watched Guan Tianyu's movements. He took out a dagger and a golden rope that looked like a headband from his waist. Guan Tianyu gently dug into the wetland with the dagger, and before long he had dug out a jade-green root. Everyone's eyes lit up and Guan Tianyu carefully continued to dig along the root. Be careful everyone, it's coming out, Guan Tianyu said softly as he dug. Not long after he finished speaking, a jade-green light suddenly shot out of the ground. The 6 of them reached out to cover it, but the green light was blocked. It turned and tried to burrow back into the wetland, but Guan Tianyu's red rope was already tied into a knot, waiting for it. The green fluorescent light drilled into the buckle. Guan Tianyu stretched out his hand and pulled the buckle, tightly fastening the little thing that was emitting fluorescent light. Got it, got it. Guan Tianyu stood up excitedly, holding the red rope in his hand. Everyone's eyes turned to the thing tied to the red rope. Chapter 263. The thing tied to the rope was as thick as 2 thumbs. It had the appearance of a human infant, its body translucent and glowing with a green light. Coincidentally, the red rope was wrapped around its slender neck, and Guan Tianyu was holding the other end of the rope in his hand. The baby, who was not much bigger than a thumb, stuck out his tongue and stared at the people around him with his small eyes. Is this the spirit treasure that Master Rong was talking about? Yiqianying asked. A spirit treasure could be understood as a descendant of a demon. After a demon's death, it would inherit its strength and abilities. As long as the demon wasn't dead, the spirit treasure wouldn't be able to grow. Its intelligence was only equivalent to that of a 2- or 3-year-old child. Once the demon died, however, the spirit treasure would grow rapidly gaining the demon's strength and abilities. Not every Yao could have their own children, and the Yao of the Qinyuan continent were a rather heaven-defying existence. After a human or an animal with spiritual energy died, its spirit would attach itself to another animal or plant and continue to exist in the world. Because of their heaven-defying nature, it was very rare for demons to have their own descendants. Especially for wild vine demigods that had yet to fully transform into demons, it was even rarer to have their own descendants. The spirit treasure's intelligence was only equivalent to that of a 2- or 3-year-old child's, so it was very easy to tame. If one could capture the spirit treasure and kill it, then make it recognize them as its master, it would be equivalent to owning a powerful killing weapon. 2 months ago, Rong Tianhai had brought a group of students from the Northern College into the forest for a trial, and they'd stumbled upon the spirit treasure playing outside. The little thing was extremely alert, and at the same time that Rong Tianhai discovered it, the spirit treasure had discovered Rong Tianhai as well. Rong Tianhai had chased it all the way until he discovered the wild vine demon's existence. In order to obtain this demon treasure, Rong Tianhai had fought against the vine half-demon. However, with Rong Tianhai's cultivation base, he wasn't a match for the vine half-demon. In the end, he could only return in defeat. However, Rong Tianhai had made a mental note of this half-demon and its treasures. When Li Mo had suggested entering the forest, Rong Tianhai had already come up with a plan to use Li Mo to kill the half-demon. Senior Marshal Brother Guan, we can't stay here for long. Rong Yueshan looked around and said, we need to quickly take the demon treasure and leave this place. Guan Tianyu took out a red pouch and placed the demon treasures inside, then tied it to his waist, and the 6 of them hurriedly left. 2.5 miles away, while Rong Yueshan and the others were searching for spirit beasts, Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, and the others had already begun to rest. In the middle of the night, Yun Ruoyan once again heard the rumbling of wild beasts in her dreams. Yun Ruoyan sat up and saw Li Mo and Zhui Yifeng standing not far from her. Guan Ruliu and the other 2 students were too weak and had fallen into a deep sleep, so they didn't notice anything. As the rumbling grew closer and closer, Yun Ruoyan walked up to Li Mo's side and asked, it's a wild beast passing by. Should we hide? No, Li Mo replied. It sounds like it's not far from us, so it won't reach here. Li Mo glanced at Yun Ruoyan, then at Zhui Yifeng. I'll bring Yener over to take a look at the situation. You stay here and protect the 3 of them. Then Li Mo took Yun Ruoyan on his sword and flew toward the source of the rumbling. Not long after, the 2 stopped on a branch of a huge tree, the rumbling sound of wild beasts on the ground ringing in their ears. Yun Ruoyan infused a large amount of spiritual energy into her eyes to enhance her night vision, then looked in the direction of the sound. Every tree here was massive and there was a large gap between them. In some places where the canopy wasn't dense enough, the moonlight still managed to penetrate the canopy. Coupled with Yun Ruoyan's enhanced night vision, she could clearly see a large horde of beasts charging toward her and Li Mo from between the giant trees. Yun Ruoyan had seen a beast stampede in the imperial territory before, and the sight of a large horde of beasts charging at one another had left a deep impression on Yun Ruoyan. But what she was seeing now had completely changed her impression of such a spectacle. Each of the beasts was so large that it seemed as if the earth itself was shaking as they ran. About 7 or 8 wild beasts dashed past Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo's feet, and one of them accidentally knocked into the tree they were standing on, causing the tree to shake violently. Yun Ruoyan was prepared. She held onto the tree trunk with one hand and Li Mo with the other, so that even if the tree broke she wouldn't be afraid. The tree only shook for a moment before it regained its footing. Yun Ruoyan looked down at the beast that had crashed into the tree. It was clearly dizzy from the impact, and after shaking its head a few times, it began to run again. "Where are they going?" Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo, puzzled. "I've been in this forest twice before. The first time I encountered wild beasts, but the second time I didn't see any," Li Mo explained. He told Yun Ruoyan that there were 2 possible scenarios for a large horde of wild beasts to appear. The first was the birth of a powerful beast, which would then expand its territory and drive away the weaker beasts and beasts. The second was that a treasure was about to be born and a large horde of beasts would come to snatch it. The weaker beasts and beasts would flee in order to preserve their lives. "Li Mo, which scenario do you think it's going to be?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "It's most likely the second scenario. The heavenly spirit fruit is about to ripen," Li Mo murmured. "But we'll have to wait for that silly bird to return before we know what's going on." That evening, Li Mo sent Immerse ahead to scout out the situation, and it was expected to return at daybreak. Just as dawn broke, Immerse returned. It perched on Li Mo's shoulder and chirped for a while. Yun Ruoyan didn't understand Immerse's bird language, but Xiao did. Xiao translated Immerse's words for Yun Ruoyan. Told Li Mo that it had encountered 3 or 4 groups of wild beasts along the way, and that there were more and more magical beasts among them, and the beasts were of higher and higher levels. Some of them were even more powerful than the others. The deeper they went into the forest, the denser the aura they emitted. Said that such a powerful aura could only be released by beasts at the level of a 9th rank blade master. Moreover, this aura wasn't coming from just one beast, but from several at the same time. The wild beasts and lower-ranked beasts had been intimidated by this powerful aura. Yun Ruoyan thought back to what Li Mo had told her last night. If a powerful beast were to be born, then there could only be a single aura. Now that there were so many of them, it could only be the second possibility that Li Mo had mentioned. After hearing Immerse's findings, Li Mo made a decision to send Guan Ruliu and the other 2 students back to the treehouse. Because the 3 of them had lost their teleportation scrolls in the miasma, Li Mo had no choice but to send them back on his sword. Fortunately, the 2 students finally woke up early in the morning, and Li Mo sent them back in 2 separate batches. Li Mo first sent the 2 weaker students, then returned to pick up Guan Ruliu. "It's a pity that I've only been here for a few days and I'm already injured. I won't be able to continue training with the 3 of you," Guan Ruliu sighed as she leaned against the trunk of a large tree. After a night of recuperation, Guan Ruliu's cultivation had returned to 5th rank, but she was still far from her original 8th rank. As a 5th rank blade master, he could, with some difficulty, continue the training with Yun Ruoyan's group. However, the 2 students from the Southern College had already lost their cultivation, and they were now mere commoners. Without anyone to look after them, they would never survive in the forest. "Senior sister, don't be discouraged," Yun Ruoyan consoled. "This time there'll be more than one dimension. Once you've recovered your cultivation, we'll head to another dimension together for training." As the 2 of them spoke, Zhou Yifeng suddenly made a shushing gesture and the 2 of them fell silent. Suddenly they heard the sound of footsteps. A short while later, 6 people walked out from the direction the sound had come from. "What a coincidence to run into you here." Guan Tianyu, who was walking at the front of the group, smiled. "Indeed," Rong Yueshun replied. Beside Guan Tianyu, Rong Yueshun laughed as well. "The forest of giant trees is so big, it's truly a coincidence that we ran into each other." Guan Ruliu stood up and glared at them. "Why are you following us? Do you want to harm us again?" "Senior sister Guan, why would you say something like that?" Yiqianying pretended to be confused. "Have we ever harmed you? Do you dare to say that we haven't?" Guan Ruliu and her 2 junior brothers could be considered to have escaped from death. Her 2 junior brothers' cultivation had been crippled, and her own cultivation had also greatly regressed. She had no choice but to end this trial, and the 3 of them had almost lost their lives. If not for Yun Ruian holding her back, Guan Ruliu's heart would have been filled with rage. Had it not been for Yun Ruian holding her back, she would have charged forward and attacked them. No matter who it was, they would not be able to remain calm after seeing the person who had harmed them appear in front of them as if nothing had happened. Senior Sister Guan, Guan Tianyu continued. Guan Tianyu continued, as a senior of Kongming Academy, how could you slander your juniors? I'm sure you know full well whether I'm slandering them or not, Guan Ruliu replied, suppressing her anger. What a joke. As long as there's no evidence, it's slander. You. Guan Ruliu was furious. Yun Ruian squeezed her hand and whispered in her ear, there are 6 of them right now and we're no match for them. Once Master Imo returns, he'll give you justice. When Guan Ruliu heard this, she forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. She shifted her gaze away from them and didn't say anything else. However, Rong Yueshan and the others were clearly here to cause trouble. When they saw that Guan Ruliu wasn't saying anything, they asked, Senior Sister Guan, why are there only the 3 of you? Where did your 2 junior brothers and Master Imo go? What do you think you're doing, kid from the Central College? Song Yi, who was tall and skinny, stepped in front of Guan Tianyu. Song Yi and Sun Yan were 2 of the strongest cultivators in the Northern College and they were adept at teamwork. During this training, the 2 of them had received orders from the second elder to protect Guan Tianyu. As Zhou Yifeng drew his bow, he growled, you'd better not provoke us. This bow doesn't have eyes. Yi Qianying, Pei Zio and Rong Yueshan had all seen Zhou Yifeng's swordsmanship before, and when they saw him draw his bow, they couldn't help but take a step back. Guan Tianyu, Song Yi and the beady-eyed Sun Yan didn't know how powerful Zhou Yifeng's arrows were. Humph. Song Yi snorted coldly. A piece of trash from the Central College dares to be so arrogant? These new students really need a lesson, Guan Tianyu commented. It's one thing for the Southern College to be so arrogant, but even the trash from the Central College dares to bare their fangs and brandish their claws at me? Last time you teamed up to embarrass me in front of everyone. If I don't take this opportunity to teach you a lesson, who knows how arrogant you'll become. The last time Zhou Yifeng had injured Guan Tianyu with a flurry of flying needles in order to help Yun Ruian, Guan Tianyu had remembered him ever since. However, he hadn't had a chance to exact his revenge. Now that Li Mo wasn't around and Yun Ruian's group was outnumbered, it was the perfect opportunity for him to exact his revenge. However, the last time Yun Ruian and Zhou Yifeng had teamed up, they had put him in a difficult position, and he was a little wary of Li Mo's warning. When he'd attacked Guan Ruliu and the others, he'd done so discreetly that he hadn't left any evidence behind. This time, however, he'd openly provoked them while Li Mo wasn't around. If things got out of hand, Li Mo wouldn't pursue the matter either, so Guan Tianyu didn't make a move immediately. Senior brother Guan, you don't have to personally teach a piece of trash from the Central College a lesson. I'll do it myself, Song Yi volunteered. At this moment, Song Yi volunteered. He took a step forward as if he was going to teach Zhou Yifeng a lesson. You're right, I don't have to personally deal with a piece of trash. Junior brother Song, I'll leave it to you. Guan Tianyu was glad that someone had stepped forward. As Song Yi spoke, he glanced at Sun Yan who stood by his side. Sun Yan understood and she extended her hands toward Zhou Yifeng. Her hands were surprisingly good-looking. Sun Yan's slender, jade-like hands crossed in front of each other and made a flying gesture. A faintly discernible gust of wind followed her gesture and blew towards Zhou Yifeng. Yun Ruian, who was standing behind Zhou Yifeng, also felt this gust of wind. She couldn't help but raise her guard, but strangely, it didn't seem to contain any offensive power. Just as the 3 of them were wondering what was going on, Yun Ruian suddenly saw Song Yi clench his hands together and flick them in their direction. 2 visible sparks flew out from his fingertips. Sun Yan continued fanning herself with her hand. When the 2 sparks from Song Yi's flick came into contact with the wind, they suddenly burst into flames with a loud bang. A large ball of fire suddenly burst forth, bringing with it scorching heat as it flew toward the 3 of them. Zhou Yifeng had been drawing his bow with both hands, and he hadn't noticed Song Yi's movements. As a result, he was caught off guard by the sudden burst of fire. Yun Ruian, on the other hand, was quick to react. She threw a fireball at the ball of fire, and when the 2 balls of fire collided, there was another loud explosion. Yun Ruian's fireball was a combination of wind and fire, but it was still slightly weaker than the resulting flames. However, it was still able to block most of the flames, and it bought the three of them some time to retreat. Zhou Yifeng took 2 or 3 steps back in order to avoid being roasted by the flames. At the same time, he let go of the bowstring he had drawn. "Ah!" A man's pained cry rang out. "Senior brother." A woman's voice followed. Only when the flames had completely dissipated did Yun Ruian's trio see the situation in front of them. On the ground opposite them, Song Yi lay in Sun Yan's arms, an arrow shot by Zhou Yifeng in his chest. The arrow that Zhou Yifeng had unintentionally shot out just now had actually hit the thin and tall Song Yi, and it had even hit a vital point in his chest. "You." Song Yi lay in Sun Yan's arms, pointing a finger at Zhou Yifeng as he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Senior brother, are you all right?" Sun Yan hugged Song Yi tightly, and she was on the verge of tears. Song Yi opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. Zhou Yifeng's archery was incredible, and the two of them had been so close to each other. Even an unintentional shot was enough to take Song Yi's life. Song Yi couldn't finish his sentence. His eyes rolled back into his head and he died. "Senior brother." Sun Yan cried out in agony. On the surface, the two of them were brother and sister, but in reality they were a couple. Naturally, Sun Yan wouldn't let the matter rest. She put Song Yi down from her arms, stood up and screamed at Zhou Yifeng, "I'll kill you." Zhou Yifeng hadn't intentionally shot Song Yi, but if the latter had threatened his life, he would have killed him without hesitation. As a result, Zhou Yifeng had no intention of explaining himself. "If you want revenge, I'll keep you company. Come." As soon as Zhou Yifeng finished speaking, Sun Yan's body suddenly blurred, and she disappeared without a trace. Everyone was stunned by this scene. What's going on? Why did senior sister Sun suddenly disappear? Yi Qianying, half hidden behind Peizio, exclaimed. Suddenly, disappeared? Rong Yuesheng was also shocked. Yun Ruian and Guan Ruliu immediately rushed to Zhou Yifeng's side. The three of them stood back to back, forming a tight defensive formation. Senior sister Sun is one of the best wind-attuned cultivators in the Northern College, Guan Tianyu began, his tone smug as if he were watching a good show unfold. She can already use the wind-attuned spiritual energy in the air to conceal herself. She didn't attack all this time because she wanted to spare your lives, but you actually killed Song Yi. This time we won't even need to act. She alone will be enough to kill all of you. Prepare to die. Everyone be careful. Guan Ruliu cautiously looked around. Sun Yan's cultivation doesn't allow her to conceal herself for long. Be careful, don't give her a chance to escape. She'll appear very soon. Over there. Indeed, Yun Ruian saw a figure flash in front of her, then vanish again. Not good. Guan Ruliu exclaimed. Although her cultivation isn't high enough to conceal herself for long, she's using her speed to make up for the time needed to conceal herself again. She's too fast and we won't be able to catch her at all. Just then Zhou Yifeng's bow-wielding arm was suddenly cut open by Sun Yan, and fresh blood gushed out. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.